Hello, everyone, and welcome back for another week of Growing with My Fellow Growers. I'm your host, Jack Greenstock, joined as always by an amazing panel. Last second, Tao slipping in here, so hopefully he can hear me and go ahead and introduce himself.
Hello, Jack and panel and everyone in chat. I am the American One on the YouTube and the American One underscore with underscore 18s on the IG. And it's always good to be here. And yeah, I'm looking forward to tonight.
Always happy to have a panel with me. I was actually a little worried because at 4 o'clock I clicked go live and there was no one with me. And I knew Spartan said that he was going to be a little bit late. He was driving and he said he's actually making good time, so he shouldn't be that late. And so I was expecting to see him. So I was like, you know what, even if I have to go live for a few minutes on my own, I'll just get it launched and then start taking some questions. And we're going to be doing an open panel tonight anyway, as well as answering all your questions and trying to give you the best answers possible. But without further ado, I'm going to welcome in Spartan Grown.
Thanks, Jack. Happy to be here. I'm Spartan Grown. You can find me on Instagram at Spartan Grown, all one word, no spaces. Or you can shoot me an email if you don't do the Instagram, and that's spartangrown@gmail.com. I actually did start an X account, but I have like 0 followers on there. But I did start that just in case I had to migrate over. I have account there, but I'm not active there.
You got at least one because I followed you and I
Oh,
need to
thank you.
actually update the YouTube because normally it says like Spartan Grown has no other social media accounts. All other accounts are fake. And I just copy and paste that from every single video and every podcast. So everybody's like, why does Jack always include this? Well, some people are
I
new
appreciate
listeners
that.
and
Yeah,
it helps
that's
them
nice.
find it. And there are a lot of fake accounts from Facebook to Instagram and other places. So letting the people know that yeah, be careful, be cautious because a lot of the fake accounts aren't just stealing the valor of your grow experience. They are using it to scam your friends, fans, etc. So they will try and say, "Oh, I'm selling these lights or these seeds or this or that, or send me one Bitcoin and I'll send you back two." And it's like, no, that's not going to happen. So without further ado, I would like to remind the chat to go ahead and start asking your questions. I'm probably going to copy and paste that Zoom link over there as well. So if you want to, you can jump in and show off your garden, or just come and hang live with us, ask questions, and maybe suggest a topic, or just let us know what you're thinking about the cannabis space in general. Anything new or exciting going on in either of your gardens?
Not too exciting. I did plant a whole bunch of auto seeds that were gifted to me from seedperson1, which I'm slowly getting back into action. I mean, I have a couple cuttings that I saved, but I haven't flowered out anything in over a year now, except for that one plant I had outside. But so these autos are going to flower whether I like it or not. So that's kind of a good thing. And while they're in their spot, that's not perfect yet. I'm going to attempt to build the perfect spot so that when I start possible photo beans, I'll be able to pick and choose possible keepers and continue on with some breeding, perhaps, definitely eventually. But I just really want to get a space that's more dialed in before I start popping seeds that I might want to keep forever. And as a topic, I have a question topic that came up when I was hanging out over at Smart Poker and Crispy's Sundays. Um, what do you guys think about? Is it beneficial or not to plant more than one cannabis plant in the same container or beds? And I won't sway you either way right now. I won't say anything.
I'd say um, it can be beneficial to a point, but I've definitely seen where it is problematic. In the earth boxes, I found two plants to be the max that I can successfully harvest. When I tried three, the center plant got swallowed by the two outer plants, and it literally got overgrown on the top, and I believe the bottom also ate out the root mass and didn't. It starved it out. It literally the one plant in the middle stayed like less than a foot tall, and the other two ended up being like 2.5, 3 feet tall and huge, healthy, beautiful plants. It does depend on your bed size, your pot size, and your cultivation practices and things like that. But I'm curious what Spartan Grown would have to say on this one. I know he also does multi-planting within city pickers and things like that.
Yeah, generally, if I get to pick, I want one plant per pot. But I have, and I still do multiple plants in a pot when I'm trying to do like pheno hunts or things like that. But I'm using the downsides of doing that on purpose. So what I mean by the downsides is like with that smaller amount of growth, or a smart amount of room for growth in the root growth that kind of triggers the plants to show sex a little early, in my opinion. So to when I'm pheno hunting, I don't mind putting, you know, two plants per pot and flipping them a little bit earlier.
And you
And
get to look at more of them too. That's a good plus.
exactly. Then I get to
Yeah.
look at more of them to do my pheno hunt. I get
Yeah.
to look at twice as many plants rather than, half as many.
That is a consideration for sure when you're pheno hunting to, give you more options and see what you end up liking. And people would be surprised, especially non-growers, new growers, people who haven't grown for a while, when they pop a 10 pack or something, maybe throw five of them in the dirt. They think that, all five of them are going to be pretty consistent. Well, it's a rude awakening for a lot of people because there's more wide variety in a 10 pack than there is consistency. Um, if I would recommend, 50 packs, like 30 or 40 of them. Well, if I vetted my, sources, which I have, I could probably give you a higher reliability. But if I just randomly pulled out of, 1,000 Instagram breeders or breeders enter anywhere, you know, and popped 10 of their seeds and then grew them all the way out and had them tested, you'd see pretty wide ranges in terpene profiles, cannabinoid profiles, and many other testable results.
I do find that it's strain specific for sure. There are some strains that like it more than others, I've noticed. Like what Jack's saying, it's really has to be successful, you want to have plants that are either clones of each other or plants that are very genetically close so that you don't have a lot of genetic variation and have one big tall guy next to I don't want hopefully girl, one big tall girl next to a short girl because that's going to shade out the one and it's going to take over that whole pot anyway. And you're not really going to get a good feel or expression of what that small plant would have done if it hadn't been shaded out. So when it comes to this, there's always that caveat, like every question, right? There's always a caveat where depends, right? The cultivar is going to really drive the genetics is going to drive the growth rates and stuff.
Debbie Hayes has a good comment, which is transplanting from multiple planting can be difficult. And I would tend to agree. I think if you're going to be multi-planting, it's a good idea to have that be your final pot. Like I do solo cup into a 1 gallon easy swap pot into an earth box, and the earth box is the only spot where they're actually sharing soil. Before that, they all have their own individual. If I'm going to have to transplant out, I agree with you, Debbie Hayes. That does add complications, but I think and some people like Brandon does beds and stuff a lot of the time, and that's usually the final destination. You'll take them from veg, get it into the, he might have like nine per 4x4 or 3x3 or whatever it is. I think he gave an exact number the other day, but he still plays around with it.
I like the idea of the beds too. Um, that makes it a lot easier to multi-plant. You have a lot more media to play with and you have a lot less issues. And it's just like look at it like a battery. I've heard it described by many people before. Those beds are like a giant battery that you're recharging and the plants are, taking that charge out.
So we got a good question from Shirt Laundry, and I agree there with you, Spartan. Good point.
I was just
But
gonna
I'll
quickly
go ahead,
say
Todd.
that yeah, like if there's plenty of root room and plenty of nutrients, and the plants don't have to fight over each other. I think they help each other when there's more than one in a container. But that's my personal belief. Because like I was telling them earlier, when if it was out in nature, those seeds ain't falling far away. I mean, some birds will pick them up, but a whole bunch will land in the same spot and start growing, most likely, right?
Right
So
underneath
they're
the
kind of
plants, the whole
yeah,
field.
yep, they're kind of like whatever I don't know what you call it. They grow together, yeah. So
Yeah, they're
that's
used
what
to being tightly spaced, but I will say, like in horticulture, we don't always directly emulate nature if we're trying to get the optimal results.
I hundred
Um,
percent. Yep, yep.
so we can at least acknowledge, though, that they can succeed, maybe not thrive as much as if you scientifically kind of figure out how much root space they want, how much pot size or bed size or whatever it is. I've done it. I've played around with it. How low can I go in soil? It's like 1 gallon is too small. 1 gallon in cocoa is perfectly adequate. You know, I might get 1 ounce off of a plant if I grow in a 1 gallon pot of soil. But if I grow in a 1 gallon pot of cocoa, I can get 5, 6 ounces off that same plant in the same tent, same space. So I think you have to know your limits. And with soil, if you're not like, I don't know, feeding a bunch of liquid nutrient into it, which I wasn't. I was just using, dry amendments and water, maybe an occasional tea, some microbes, etc. Um, you really have to give it a little bit more root space, unless you're having tiny plants and a bunch of them. But I prefer to do a few decent sized ones, plant count reasons, and just management, mentally and physically, you know, cognitively understanding like which plant is which and how they grow. I think it's like, and then no offense to anybody if you have 12 kids or 15 kids or however many, but like if somebody has like one or two kids or like an only child, they can spend a lot of time and attention with that individual and they get to really know them and hopefully have a good bond. And they know a lot about them if they dedicate that time, which ideally they would. And I like that with the plant. It's like you can spend more time with each one, and each run you get a little bit more connected. And the more and more plants you get, like any one person, we'd all admit there's a number that we can't manage as well as one plant. Like me and Spartan talked about in the past, like if I was growing one, I would take myself over him growing 5,000 or, 1,000 or 500. At a certain point, he's going to beat me, even if he's a higher skilled grower or whatever, it's one versus like 12 and he's got more experience and things like that. But after a certain number, I think Eagle used to run like 70 or something. Michigan, like the plant counts were pretty generous. I think it was like 12 per patient and then plus like your 12
70,
outdoor,
yeah, 72
84.
where it caps out. Oh yeah,
So
well, you can do
there's
one.
some loophole stuff. And like
Yeah,
California, I
yeah,
knew people that did 99 and they made it work. A lot of those were outdoor and greenhouse growers that had like hoop houses and things like that. Indoor, 70, you're probably going to have your plants be relatively small. And that becomes a whole shit ton to manage. And I think he would even be honest with himself if he was growing a dozen versus, 4 dozen. Um, the dozen is probably going to be higher quality if he had to grow them for the like a grow competition or something to get the max
absolutely.
quality.
Absolutely, man. And that's where you have to be honest with yourself and I think the biggest thing holding growers back, especially in commercial growing, is ego. Is ego. Just let that ego just check out and tell yourself, I need help here. I need help and I need someone that I can trust or somebody I can train. You know what I mean? Somebody that if doesn't have the knowledge, at least I can trust them to listen to me and I can train them to do what I'm doing. And we can give that same care to all these plants now. We just need to clone that gardener and get another gardener. You need to download your techniques into the next person and then just and it's hard to realize that you're in a team and you're in it together and it's not me versus anybody. We're all working together to try to get the end goal of some awesome weed at the end. So that was my that was my strategy in the commercial scene. And it's like you can't be frustrated because you're overwhelmed with more plants than you've ever seen in your life. You got to take that like that old adage of eating an elephant. You don't look at the elephant, you just look at it one bite at a time. You just chunk it into what you can do and then do that instead of standing there and doing nothing. So yeah, drop your ego, get some help, get a good team, and you can do it. You'd be surprised what you can do.
And just once we do get the craft under our belt, sometimes I think we can all maybe get a little lazy or not go through 100% of the things that make us grow as well as we did at our peak, at our very best. And it's important to admit if our quality is slipping. I've noticed in my last couple runs, like my taste started to become similar, one grow to the next, and I'm thinking my soil was out of a balance, and so it caused me to take pause and redirect. Like if I'm going to be growing and it's not the quality that I know I can grow, and I have stuff freely available to me, if I'm not going to grow it better than the quality of the stuff that's free to me from like my wife and others, then it's not even worth my time. So I needed to take some time off, refocus, readjust, and like right now, um, I made the decision. I thought I was going to do it um, in the middle of the day before the show and say like I've started growing again, but I'm gonna just germinate seeds because that'll be the fire, the candle to light underneath my butt to do those few things on the checklist that I've been putting off. It's which like clean the veg space, uh, buy or re-amend some soils and take care of a few things. Instead of waiting until I have all that stuff done, I'm just gonna germinate the seeds. I'm just gonna get them sprouted and get them into solo cups and get them in my veg space. And even if it's not perfect, I'm getting them started. And knowing myself, as soon as I get those things germinated, I'm on a, 24, 48, maybe 72 hour most counter. And some point in the next couple days, I've got a few open time slots, and instead of dedicating that to other stuff that I have been, now I've got the fortunate opportunity because life and things I've gotten situated finally. I'll be able to take that time and dedicate it to growing again. And honestly, even just like watching a couple videos of growing stuff and seeing other people's passion, it might have been even seeing you, Tao, the other day when I was on fucking talking shit with Eagle. I was like, damn, Tao's got all these plants going, and just hearing
Tell
you
you
talking
what,
about
dude,
them,
it
seeing
changes
them.
your whole. It changes my whole freaking uh, aura, feng shui, whatever, man. I'm in a new place. I feel way better now. And yeah, I should have. Well, I kind of started. I had starts and fits, and I even popped some seeds, and they died.
I'd
I'll
rather
tell
do
you
that
that.
though. I'd rather do that though than be in the situation I'm in right now, which is like I haven't grown in a couple months, and I'm about to be in the situation that you were in a little bit ago, where I won't have had a harvest for over a year if I just
Right.
don't get started. And even if I have to kill some or some of them don't work out, like I'd rather do that than
That
be sitting
and
on my hands.
yeah, you and like thank God. Well, at least I am so lucky. I have so many seeds, and to the people in our community are just awesome. So I wasn't threatened, if I accidentally killed some, I had plenty more, and yeah, like that. So that also helps that situation. But yeah, I hate to see any plant die ever. I hate killing males, but I do, yeah.
I hate
And
killing them too.
and even
Some
killing like you saw my freak plant that didn't grow more than a lighter. I couldn't kill
real
it. I
slow runs and
Yeah,
just weird growers
freak
and
plant. But yeah, I am getting better at being a murderer because in the end, at the end of it all, we're the ones that kill the plants. They don't die themselves. So
yeah, when we
one way
harvest, I
or
mean,
another, we're either killing them young or killing them old. So
yeah. My thought is consume it as much as you can, like eat the plant, you know?
there you go.
Eat the leaves, use the stalk, chop it up, make it into little joint crutches or something. Like consume as much of it as you can. I like the kind of use as much of everything that we
Oh yeah,
eat and consume as possible.
I
Try and
I
have as little
feed
waste.
I feed whatever leaf strips to the worms, and that's a great use for that stuff.
It's good for you too, though. I'll say that.
Yep. Oh, I eat the popcorn nugs usually, like
Even the veg leaf, people don't
right,
like it because it's bitter,
and
but
yeah.
it's real good for you.
Oh, some of the buds are better too, but
A
I
lot of the
still,
buds. I
yeah,
always smell it. I'm like, how can this thing that
stuff.
smells so good taste so bad sometimes? Like it smells like it should taste
But
amazing.
you know what? That I was eating on some of them Agent Orange lower buds, and that shit was orangey, dude. It was like chewing an orange.
It's the same. I mean,
It's
limonene,
unbelievable. Yeah.
and Valencine. A lot of the other terpenes that are in there are legitimately the same. Like Subcool mentioned, I think it was maybe it was Calio. Somebody sent him a pack in the mail, and it was that kind of situation. He thought it wasn't even vacuum sealed. It was just in like a loose box. Like all they did was like put in a priority box and seal it shut. And he's like somebody's like, oh, somebody sent you oranges. He's like, shaking the box, like feels a little light. It's like, yeah. Wanders off, gets home. Like, can't even believe he's like waiting for the cops to come kick his door down because it's like so obvious, thinking it must have smelled like weed in there. But the guy just was oblivious, and it smelled just like oranges. So it's amazing how well cannabis can actually emulate. A lot of people for a long time would actually mistake cannabis for skunk, like legitimately think they didn't think like, oh, that's weed. They'd be like, wow, somebody must have hit a skunk. Like it was a nice cover. We do have a couple questions. If I saw Spartan just unmuted them.
Yeah, I was just gonna throw in about growing. I think it's and we brought it up a lot of times on the show before, but I think a lot of people don't realize the the just the effect it has on you just being able to grow. Like not even the, enjoying the medicine at the end, but the process of taking care of something and seeing it through to the end and then reaping a good harvest from all of the hard work. There's a lot of benefit mentally, I think, to that a lot of people don't realize until they step away from it for a while and then get back into it again, like, oh shit, this is what I was missing.
It's funny because it's like what you just said is so true. It very much so increases like my bullshit or like BS like rope, like the timeline before I feel like angry about something. When I'm growing, it's like I have a longer rope. It's like I'm not gonna get frustrated about some petty little shit. But now that I'm like not growing, like little stuff's bothering me here and there. It's like the other kind of comparison I would think of is if you have a t-shirt and you're one of those people like myself who's a little bit sensitive to the tags and shit, or it's just like a little too small or a little too tight, or just doesn't fit right. You know, it's like something's just off, and it's just irritating, slightly irritating. Not enough to like really make you necessarily like immediately like go change or something, but you're just gonna have to suffer through that discomfort, and it's like a low level, constant
Low
annoyance.
stress training.
Low stress training ourselves by not indulging in the most addicting part of growing the plant, which is growing it. And I'm with Rosenthal on that. I'm withdrawing, and I've always felt this way, like post-harvest
Yeah.
depression almost, because like when I had just one tent, I'd be like, seed to harvest in the same tent, and then I'd have to dry in that tent for that like few week period, even though I was really stoked to like get the stuff, dried and cured. It was just like I want to have live plants. I like touching them and shaking them and pulling leaves off and eating them and feeding them to my cat and being underneath the light. And it's just it's a magical experience, man. Like there's nothing like it. And I've let my other hobbies sort of run more rampant as of late. And there's certain reasons for that, but I think this is one that is more than a hobby. It's actually part of my life and my lifestyle, and that's something that I haven't acknowledged enough. And I do this show every week, and obviously it's a huge, huge part of my life. But it's easy to underestimate the value of creating unique to you medicine, which is what
Hmm.
cheap home growing is doing. You pick the strain, you grow it to the harvest time of your liking. You figure out which flavors and smells and cannabinoid profiles benefit you the best. And you can continually grow it over and over and over again, or you can enjoy the sort of like never ending hunt of enjoying like we might grow hundreds of strains in our lifetime of the thousands that are out there. So like we'll never grow them all. I'm pretty convinced, even if you have like an unlimited license, people will keep making new ones and they'll keep coming out with new and new and more and better and worse. It's gonna go up and down. It's gonna be like, markets. It's gonna be a erratic time. But we can have our peaceful little humble, happy garden and hunt through amazing stuff and just enjoy our time. And like although I'm getting tons and tons of free stuff and like the stuff, a lot of it I actually like at this point. Like I'm blessed to be fortunate to get good free. I can't even believe I'm at this point. However, I still want to grow my own. And like Spartan said, I think part of it is even just the growing process. Even if I didn't smoke my harvest, which I've got one in my curador that I smoked maybe half of it and just left it there. It hasn't been smoked. That's another reason I have been hesitant to start growing again. It's like I've still got stuff from the harvest however long ago. And so it's a humbling experience, but at the same time, I don't want to be like, oh, woe is me. I've got so much weed that I don't even have to grow. Because I know a lot of people out there are not like that. But hopefully you'll get there if you're growing your own eventually. A lot of people actually outpace what they like planned. They like got a 4x4 setup and then they're like, holy shit, I grew my whole year worth of weed in my first crop. And now like I have to scale back or just like grow less or whatever.
You know
Like
what I found though too, Jack, in my bumper crops, I was like, man, I have so much giving it away and not even thinking about it. Then you run out, you're like, wow, I could have kept some of that, but it's better to give than receive. So I have no problem with I like giving away weed to surprise people with. Yeah, back in my younger days, I would just like be driving. I used to deliver into the city and shit, and I'd see like some white dude with rastas, and I'd just throw him a tin and be like, "Yo, here." And I knew that,
they're gonna enjoy it.
yeah. So
I could give it to random people on the street and stuff. Like at this point, it's unfortunate slash funny. Like a lot of the people in my regular life are not big cannabis people. Like if they do smoke, they smoke like very little, like maybe a hit here and there. And like many of them have like completely stopped smoking altogether for like a job or personal reasons or whatever. So it makes me realize like we are, even though more and more people are smoking now than probably at any time, who knows? Because there's so much lying in the past, right? Like when it was illegal, not everyone who smoked is gonna come out and say, "Yeah, I smoke," because like there's people with good jobs that would get fucking canned if they came out and said that. So it's hard to say, but I'd say just the number of people that are alive now is like a pretty high number, and the number of people that have access is a much larger number than it's been historically. So even then, in a place like California, like I went to a party at somebody who owns like an art studio, ceramic studio's house, and like me and my wife were the only ones who smoked weed out of like 40 people, and it's just like still blows my mind. just being on the West Coast, like I thought it was so common out here, and it is in certain circles, and then in certain circles it isn't. So it all just really depends.
I don't think that's going to change, Jack. I think it's going to get worse for us because I think a lot of people, if they do smoke, they're going to smoke concentrates. They're going to smoke a vape cart, or they're going to, and they just don't like the flower itself. I think it's kind of, we're a dying breed when it comes to flower smoking. I'm sure there's going to be people, new people that get into it and for sure smoke flower, but I think it's going to be right now the only thing keeping flower alive, in my opinion, on the commercial side is pre-rolls. We still sell a lot of flower. Definitely we sell a lot of flower in Michigan, but we sell so much pre-rolls.
It's so funny because like each individual is so different, right? Like some people, and I do think what's going to keep flower around is its superiority of effect. It's just different. It's a different effect. It's a different, the thing that made so many people love cannabis is flower. So like when they get like a small taste of it in a vape pen, they're like, oh, this is pretty nice. And then like they'll be out like at like a wedding or a party and somebody will like hand them a joint and they'll be like, oh, well, I hit my vape all the time. Like, yeah, I'll fucking hit a joint. Fuck it. And then they're like, wow, that joint actually made me feel way better than the fucking, like maybe I'll buy some flower. Maybe I'll buy a joint or whatever. Like, and they start to open up more to it. So I think there's like a gateway in that regard, to trying different varieties. Like even somebody who takes edibles or something, like totally different effect in my experience and many others. I think it's literally a different chemical when it is metabolized by your liver. So Joe Rogan always mentions, I think it's 11 hydroxy metabolite, and I'm pretty sure he's correct on that. But it is a way different high.
Yeah, it's more body high, more pain relief, in my opinion, and I'm a big fan of it.
I
I'm a
think
big
it
fan
can
of it.
can get a little bit more hallucinogenic too, like when you
In
take
higher
ultra high
doses.
dose.
Yeah, yep, for sure.
And then I'll add THCV to that list on even if you're not consuming it orally, like if you're smoking it. I've had THCV where I've gotten like borderline slash full on, like I'm seeing shit that's not actually there and I know it's not there. It's just like very altered or yeah, interesting shit. There's some, and people will be like, "Are you sure it wasn't?" And I'm like, I know the person who grew it or grew it myself in some cases. So there is some pretty wicked shit out there. I am actually surprised. Like when I always used to be so uh, upset by the label mild hallucinogen was what it falls under in a lot of drug categorizations. I thought there's no fucking way. And then when you actually experience those types of effects, I think it is eye-opening because a lot of it's like sedative or a stimulant effect. Like cannabis is such a incredible drug, from the way that it affects so many different systems, but to avoid getting into the amazing medical benefits and how it impacts our human bodies and everything else. Shirt Laundry has a great question that he asked at the top, or they asked at the top. They say, how do you remineralize RO water before use in the garden? Do either of you use RO? And if you did, how would you?
I don't use RO water. Um, well, not true. I use RO water at the Trichome Forge, and we remineralize that with specifically Canna nutrients is what we're running. We mix that into it. Now, and at home where I'm in an organic situation, I filter my water, but I don't, it's not RO filtered. It's just charcoal filtered. And so there's still ppms left in my water. And so I don't worry about remineralizing my water. I will remineralize my media. And in an organic situation, I usually do that with some kind of a rock dust. Some sort of rock dust is usually what I'm going to go for that. Calcium is another good one. Gypsum, it's a great source of calcium that doesn't affect the pH much. Those are some good options.
I only used RO water for a short time when I transitioned to super soil out of cocoa. And it was, I think Subcool might have been using it. And like the super soils are so heavy mineralized or, amended already that even if you're stripping, I wasn't watering to a heavy runoff. But even if you did, you're going to strip, a decent chunk or whatever. But it's got such a large charge within the soil. You're usually going to be able to make it all the way through harvest if you give it a big enough pot. When I was
Yeah,
in,
but does it really? Yeah, if you put RO water and it doesn't run off, the minerals must dissolve in that water pretty quickly, you know?
Right. It uptakes them. It
Yeah, so
becomes
it
like
might.
saturated paste test, right? Like the water absorbs the nutrient and then
Mhm.
slowly begins to um, not evaporate into the media over time or be uptaken into the plant.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. So I would think RO water is good for living soil, but I don't know. I never used RO water ever.
I just
Um,
stopped because it was the inconvenience. I was like buying it by like the 5 gallon jug at a store, right?
okay.
And then lugging it 10
Yeah,
gallons at a time to and from my house. And then I realized my tap water is like only like 100 something parts per million. And it's like, I know exactly what it is. I've tested it myself and I've looked at the water testing for like the last 7 years. And it's extremely consistent from pH to ppm. So I'm like, why am I paying and lugging these jugs around to give it to, my super soil that I don't need to necessarily even go through the hassle. And so I just stopped doing it and didn't notice any problems and really haven't had issues. When I was in cocoa, I was using heavy 16 nutrient line. So like Spartan said with Canna, I'd remineralize and to respond to this question by using the heavy 16 line, the AB plus like the organic amendment stuff that they had as well, fire, roots, um, other things as well. But I had pretty good results with that line, I will say. It was a little on the pricier side, but got the job done well.
Yeah, as long as you're not running off, I don't think there's be a huge issue to use RO, especially I think both of you guys brought up really good points. It's like the water, if it stays within the pot, I think eventually, the minerals aren't going to go anywhere. They're just going to dissolve into the water and get uptaken. So I don't know that it's a huge, big deal in an organic situation like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. It really depends on what your style of cultivation is, and even then, it can work for both. So, um, I do like RO because I can just give general advice across the board then. But then I don't have to say like, oh, you're using well water. Oh, your city has really bad water. My city's got
Yeah.
good water. Like it's a huge variance. I can't just say, you use a gallon of water, give it to your plant, and you'll be fine. Because a gallon of water in, Southern California is different than Michigan, is different than New York, is different than Canada. And if you're on a well versus, a treated line, there are major considerations from chlorine, chloramine, all the different things that are put into municipal water supplies. And I'm not going to get any debates or rabbit holes on that, but it is just something to consider. Know your water source, and RO. A lot of people choose it just because it is a basically zero starting point.
Yeah, when I'm adding minerals to my water, I want to start from zero. So if I'm growing synthetically, I want RO. When I'm growing organically, it doesn't matter to me as much because I'm charging the media then more than I'm worried about charging the water. I
Well,
don't
and
even usually I don't even pH my when I'm in organics. I'll pH the soil if I think something's really out of whack, but I'd never really even pH the water because what's the point? All the minerals that would react to pH are in the soil, not the water.
exactly. And I was gonna say with the water, RO don't pH like right off the top because it doesn't really matter before you start putting your nutrients and everything are gonna swing it all around, right? Look up the order because there's certain orders to mix. Like if you're using silica, you want to put that in earlier, maybe even the night before, because that takes the longest to absorb and stuff like that. But you want to follow the right kind of steps of that process when you're adding stuff into the thing. But you don't want to pH until the end. And RO water, when it doesn't have, when it's like 0.00, there's like nothing in it, ppm wise. One drop of pH up or one drop of pH down will swing it from like 3 to like 11 to like 2. It's just like there's nothing in there to sort of stabilize it. So having a little bit of nutrient actually helps to make the pH balancing a lot easier. So wait till you're later on in the mixing process to really even worry about measuring and adjusting that stuff. Getting back on the organic side a little bit, JM12's question is, can the panel report on fungi's mold-like bud formation that incorrectly diagnosed as mold, but under a microscope is heavy patches of trichomes?
I
Well,
would haven't heard of that. I haven't heard of that. This
I've
is
heard of it going the other way. People thinking that their moldy weed is full of trichomes, and when you
yeah.
get the microscope, you see the filaments and the fungi growing on it. But I guess it could go the other way. Sure, I haven't seen it though.
I had someone once when I had a really frosty run think that it was moldy because it was so white looking, and they hadn't seen like a white
Yeah,
bud.
but the thing that I would say, like, I don't know, I maybe I'm reading too much into this question, but I was assuming that it was like it was report like it got went to a lab and it was said it was fine, but then it came back. That doesn't seem like because if you look at any of the stuff, the first thing like when you have a when I see something in in the grow room that I think is even a possibility of mold, or I'm like, hey, what is that? I get something that magnifies it so much that I'm seeing either a trichome head or I'm seeing, mold. You can tell the difference under magnification up close. So I don't think there's a way you could like once you look, I mean, once you see it at that level, I don't think there's an argument or a way to mistake to say, so I would be hard pressed to believe that a mold was a misidentified at a lab. It would be more for me to believe that the mold might have been at a smaller state and it was missed in the inspection and then it sat on a shelf and then it grew later on. That I would believe for sure. But to be like incorrectly diagnosed, like that blows my mind. Like that, I would love to hear the details on that to like they were diagnosed by someone as this is mold and in fact it was trichomes because under magnification, how could you I mean, a trichome looks way different than mold.
Definitely looks way different. And you know what happened to me, that time rack that I had the first time I grew it, dude, when I was harvesting it, it smelled like it was like it wasn't like a musty basement, but it had this funk, and I thought it was like I thought something happened to it.
Oh
But
man,
man, if that was just the stank of the plant, man, because yeah, it continued to shriek like that every time I grew it. And but the very first time, I was like, oh my god, what the fuck did I do? Meanwhile, that was just the terp profile.
I love that. But see, you can't, yeah, you don't just throw that stuff away. You break it up and you investigate further. You don't just go off of that gut reaction because for sure you can misdiagnose things from the get, but yeah, investigate further. If you see something strange, investigate further. That's
Yeah,
always a good advice there.
I think
and
we're
yeah,
all
a
in
lot of
agreement
times
for sure on that.
the people
Better safe than
misdiagnose.
sorry.
They see a little bug crawling and they're like, "Oh my god, it's the end of the world." Meanwhile, it's beneficial. You know what I mean? That's happened a lot. I've seen. So
That's why I
yeah,
always ask
definitely.
Matthew.
Yeah, double check everything that you come across.
It is always a good idea to check with someone who knows. And he's not with us tonight, but I always advocate spend at least $1 a month and join that Zentanol Patreon. And you got access to basically a dude with over a decade experience in identifying all the pests. When I first came across him, before I even knew who he was, in person, like we've met now several times, and I consider Matthew a friend of mine. Um, Great dude, but definitely a big shout out to Zentanol. And when I used to see it was when I first got on Instagram, people would tag at Sync Angel, his Instagram account, and it'd be like, I have this bug. And then underneath, you just scroll down and somebody would tag Sync Angel, and then you'd see a Sync Angel post and it'd be like, Tetranicid, ear decay, two-spotted spider mite. And he's like, this is the two-spotted spider mite, and it is best treated by this variety of predator mite. And he would, give the predator mite and be like, it can also be treated by this spray and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I have a pest primer on this. And it's like, he always had so much information and like the perfect detail. I'm like, damn, like, who is this dude? Like, I clicked on his page and I realized he's like a pest professional and followed him a while ago. And, he's been doing great for a long time. So you see him all around. I'm sure many folks out there already know, but I think he's the best of the best. And maybe I'm biased, but I've actually looked at like the other top bug people, and no offense to them, they're also great too. I just think that Matthew is actually the best, and maybe he wouldn't even say that. He's more humble than I am, but I'll put it out there in terms of like what we do. Maybe there's researchers that have more knowledge in like a specific subject area, but when it comes down to setting up IPM plans and things like that, knowing like how to actually take the science, apply it to reality in a grow, he's like top tier.
Especially specific to cannabis. I mean, if you want somebody, a pest specialist that's specifically pest to cannabis, I mean, that's your guy right there. I mean, he's been living it and talking about it for as long as we
Plus,
knew.
he uses
Oh,
it like he smokes it. He's grown it. It's no stranger to him. He's like myself. I think the only reason that he doesn't grow is he travels so much for work. And being in this industry, we are surrounded by so much cannabis. We get like lots of it for free if we want it. Like whenever we go to any place that we're working with them, they offer you up to sometimes a pound. It's just like I have a remnants of a leftover pound of infused bud that was just like given to us. And it's just like it's taken us so long to like give it out and smoke through it. And it was actually good stuff. I really enjoyed the flavor. It was like done well. I was very impressed by it. I think they're doing some cutting edge shit. Actually, a lot of people are like, how to identify spray packs? Because there's a lot of nasty shit out there, and I agree. I don't think that most people are taking the time and effort to do things right. However, some people are actually making some cool shit or just growing really good flower straight up.
I'm just gonna go on record to say if you grow really good flower, you don't gotta spray anything on it. That's
No, I agree. There are dabbers out there though that like want 50, 60, 70% all the time. And if they just smoke flower, they're not gonna get high or high enough for
well,
them.
that's what we have dabs for. Okay. There's an answer for them there.
I'm just, there's a gap in the market. Sometimes people want to just smoke bong bowls like myself. I'm not really a dabber. I have to force myself to dab. I like really, we have 25 grams on my dab tray. Okay. And like maybe we'll go through five of them in the next 3 months. Just like one or two
Three
dabs
months,
here.
I would have that 25 gone in 3 months for sure.
Yeah, no. I'd smoke, 10x the amount of flour, two dabs.
See, I'm
No doubt.
moving the other way now that I have an easy way to create dabs, right? Because we're doing the fresh frozen. It's like, and it's just as available as flour. I'm reaching for that more often.
I guess I just enjoy the ritual of smoking as well
Yeah.
as the, access to I do have access to tons and tons of concentrate and I can make more myself if I wanted to. But I think yeah, something about flour just always brings me back. From breaking it down, grinding it up, I got a rolling tray right here sitting in front of me. I can smell it. I can take
Well,
two and
that's
brush
what
them
gets me
together.
to the dabs is like it's closer, it's a step closer to what I'm smelling right before I harvest it. And the flavors that, way more intense, that flavor that I'm smelling right at harvest, as
That's a good
opposed to
point.
there's a little bit different, there's that subtlety to the flower for sure. And I still smoke flower. My bong is right here within reach. It's just I'm smoking less of it nowadays for sure.
Yeah, I think it does take more of a keen smoker to even pull out the smell in flower. Like with concentrate, it's so obvious and in your face. Like when somebody puts a jar under your nose and it's like a Fragoli, something that's like lemony, it's gonna hit you in the nose and like, oh my God, the lemon. Like, and it could be like a lemon skunk or a lemon haze, right? And it's just like a little subtle lemon in there a lot of the time, where concentrate is way more in your face. I think a lot of it is in the storage, handling process, curing, drying, trimming as well. A lot of people are trim machining shit, just throwing it through blades that spin for too long and beat the hell out of it.
Yeah, it's so much easier to preserve concentrate because it's, from the harvest, it goes right to the freezer and then it's in ice water and then it's in a you know, a freeze dryer and then it's squished
Well,
and
even if you abuse concentrate, I've got some hash sitting on my table. It's been sitting out in sun, you know, 80, 90 degree. Like it should not be good still. It's like almost a year old, but it still tastes amazing, still burns amazing, still melts amazing, still gets me super medicated. And I just need little chunks of it. If I'm feeling like the flour is not where it should be, I usually break up a little ball into a little snake and then chop that snake up into a few little pieces and layer it throughout the bowl. And it supercharges it for sure. But it doesn't need to be some stuff you want a baby, right? Like if you've got a really nice concentrate that's brand new and like if you keep it in fridge or freezer temperature, it'll keep its texture and like the texture that it currently is nice. It might be like a buttery type texture that's easy to scoop on the nail or whatever and get off. And then if you like left it at room temp, it would be a liquid by the time you get back to it. And it's impossible to scoop because it's just like so terpy and like the layers separate and you got like terps on the top and like all the other stuff down low. And it's just
what drives me insane is consistency for it. It's like I want a consistency that's more it's easy to deal with. I don't like it when it dries out. Yeah, because when it starts getting to the little powder or rocks, and it's how do you even pick that up with your dab tool without it just falling off? And oh, I hate that shit.
starts flaking everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. So for me, I want something that, yeah, that stays in my container. I have it in my container and it stays like that and it doesn't dry out after a couple days. It has to have a good seal or whatever.
I'm like that with diamonds too. I don't want a diamond too big because I'm gonna have to break it up. And then if I have to break it up, you get like uneven chunks, and then like you get little shards and stuff, and it's just I don't know.
I see.
Diamonds, I think.
I don't want diamonds and sauce at all. I don't want that shit. What are you doing? What are you doing? Fucking separating this shit. I want it all together. Why are you making me have to put it back together again? Because that's what I got to do. So why separate it to begin with if I got to smash it all back together again? Just give me the whole thing, man. Give me the live resin or live rosin. And give me the whole thing, the way the plant made it. Don't blend your bullshit together. Really, I'm talking to you too. You don't gotta put shit together. Just do a single run, man. Just give it to me like the plant is and stop fucking around.
You wouldn't believe I saw an eighth had like a half gram of diamonds in it that was sold here in the Cali market. And I think it was basically just to pump the number up because the THC would like skyrocket essentially. And I was like, it's not even convenient. Like you like go to like grind up your flour and you just got like this like little rock in there or whatever. And
Yeah.
it's like you're gonna supercharge like one or two bowls or something. Like throw it in your dab rig at some point. Like I
How
don't
much
know.
are you losing to just vapor as a if you're as your
You know, I
heat?
even noticed it in the gummies I was getting. There was THC distillate in them, and it's such a different. It's totally a different experience when
I'm
you.
100% with you, man.
Yeah, dude.
100% with you.
I don't like
Yeah.
the
So
distillate high.
right. So I had a whole bunch. So I was like, you know what? So what I did, I would take some Pico or some full. I had full extract gummies that's I had. So I do one of each. At least to get the full effect with the extra THC. But if you don't have any other thing than just THC, yeah, it's not. I don't think it's any good at all, in my opinion.
I look at it kind of like I look at the light spectrums now, you know what I mean? So
There you go. Yep,
I want that full spectrum. I
the
don't
full
want
spectrum.
yeah, I don't want just, a little bit of THC and fucking CBD. I need that middle piece too, man. Give me everything in between.
All the little things, yep, that make it special. But for medicine, perhaps that's what I always do the caveat. For medicine, they should maybe separate and figure out stuff to help people. But for to enjoy it in a recreational sense, definitely I want to go with a Pico product, not a
Yeah.
distillate or any of even
I
diamonds
just
and sauce. I never did diamonds and sauce, but the diamonds are total THC and the sauce is terps. That's
yes,
right? Yeah. So
yes,
there's no reason. Just leave it all together and do freaking
exactly.
yeah.
It tells me is that whatever the
Teach
original
their own.
product was, to me, I'm so suspicious, especially in this industry, right? And I'm so suspicious when you start taking things apart and like, why? What was
Right.
it? Real trash? Was it garbage? Why are you not giving me to it like, just the flour, what the flour gave us? Why are we taking things apart? So to me, I instantly get suspicious when I see diamonds and sauce and distillate
That's
and
a whole nother
spray
good point.
on
Yeah.
bullshit. And it's like, no, give me just I want the whole grain, baby. Give me the whole bud or a well done concentrate, which is, as close to the whole trichome that you can get to.
Yeah. Squish everything out of it and give it to me. Don't be separating it, motherfucker.
Exactly. Don't separate this shit and all that.
I
And
think the
I
reason I
really don't
don't
like the mixing back in. That's when I really start getting suspicious, especially in the commercial side of things. I've just seen and saw too many bullshit things go down. It's like, no, no, no mixing shit back in. Just give me what the plant gives me.
I think it's for some people it's a necessary evil from their process. Like when they extract it out, the terpenes come off first because it's the lowest temperature, and then they can get the maximum amount of THC out of the product, maximum amount of CBD out of the product, etc. Isolate them, recombine them, because as you guys mentioned, when you're not having a full spectrum, you're not going to get as good of an effect. Typically, some people out there, like if you have seizures or something, pure CBD isolate or distillate might actually be the best thing or work really well for you. Some people even do better with like a CBD FICO, like a full extract cannabis oil. So it is really user to user. And I tend to agree with you guys that the full extract is more what I prefer in terms of edibles or concentrates. I will say I think that's why I love the flower so much is even going to a rosin. Flower rosin is actually my favorite rosin. Like if you get really good flower rosin, I think that's my favorite rosin. It's just because I'm such a flower fiend. Like that's the thing I am the biggest enthusiast of. I will say hash rosin typically tastes better than flower rosin, but I'm using it as a medical patient for the effect, and I think that flower rosin is more like flower and just like a little supercharged or whatever. And it's interesting because when we look at cannabis, when you test it in a you know uh, HPLC or whatever, they have all these little blips, and we didn't even know what all of them were. Like THCP was just identified like a year or two ago in Italy by a team of researchers. There's so much stuff that's in there that we don't even know about. right? So like if we're isolating to just THC, as all of us have kind of mentioned, it's not going to do the same thing as the flower, which has maybe 20, 25, 30% THC, but then there's 70% other shit. Yeah, some of it's water, 10%. Yeah, some of it's like fiber and cellulose and fats and lipids, right? But even I think that we have fat in our brain and lipids and all these things, like they're part of our body. They're part of what constitute us. The nutrients that they take up, the plants, are the same nutrients that we take up in our bones, in our blood. And like we need water just like they need water. We're like 80% water. It's crazy. But it's just I think the power of the flower is never going to disappear. I hope. I hope. Maybe I'm just optimistic because I'm a uh, old school smoker, but I think there if enough of us keep growing it, which it always has to be there, right? Because it's like the wheat that goes in or growing like the sugar cane, right? Everybody's gonna continue to consume sugar, even if they don't grow their own sugar cane, right? It's just like it's
Yeah.
become so much part of the sort of reality of the world. It's just like C at this point is like vitamin C. It's just like another thing in the food chain almost. It's like a commodity. It's become almost that much of just a general ag asset where I wonder how much and even THC, CBN, they're commoditized at this point. You can look at the international trade. What does a pound of CBN go for? What does a pound of THC go for? What does a pound of CBN go for, or CBD go for? There's prices on all this stuff. So it's like if you really like just one, you can go and find it from hemp, from cannabis, whatever. It's out there. But a lot of us continue to do these pheno hunts because these special plants exist, and the flower is what ultimately. And I think we'll get better drying and curing methods too. That'll make the flower even closer to some of the concentrates. Whether it's, and I've seen like sublimation, flash freezing, and like other methods experimented with. I've smoked some of this stuff. I think the old school method's still just as good or better. So, and I'm talking like even just like hang dried in a fucking room temperature has beaten like flash frozen in my experience or freeze dried. So I know some people argue there's a few professional groups out there that have done studies and do a lot of funding and say, hey, our flash frozen method is top secret and hyper amazing and way better than everybody else. But when you actually
Anything like
smoke the
freeze
product,
drying is trash. I can tell you that.
yeah,
Tried it. It's trash. It definitely dries out your bud and you smoke it, but it smells like, I mean, it smokes like shit.
so harsh
Uh,
and it just powders into a dust.
like
Not
literally you touch it
ideal.
and it's gonna go, yeah.
It's like I had a freeze it was funny, I had freeze dried bud before I had freeze dried candy or whatever. Like that's like a big phenomena. And freeze dried candy is the same way. Like it expands out, so you get like these puffy. It could be like a Jolly Rancher, right? And the Jolly Rancher is normally like this little like log shaped thing that's maybe like I don't know, maybe an inch long at most. By the time it is freeze dried, it's like almost like a little larger than a golf ball. But when you bite into it, it's just like air has filled that space. And it just collapses into nothingness. You almost don't even have to chew it. If you just like let it sit on your tongue, it just dissolves because it's just like sugar and shit, right? But sugar and air, basically, at that point. And with the bud, it's just like there's no water when you need. I really think 10%, even if it's a little under 10, but like around 10% moisture content in your bud.
I'm with you.
Yeah, well, the freaking Padiva and what's the other one?
And
They're like 60%, right? 65.
well, that's different. That's 68% relative humidity. Jack's talking about 10%
Oh, moisture
water,
content.
yeah, moisture
Yeah, that's
content in your bud.
different.
So
Okay, okay.
Yeah, like active water content, like with a moisture meter, like they
Hmm.
make like wood meters for walls and stuff. Like when there's floods or water damage to check to avoid molds. I use that to make sure I don't over dry in my herbs now. And some people criticize it. I think that if you get an SOP where you're just making sure you're getting the same types or consistent amounts of bud onto the thing, it's more of a get you in the right range thing than an absolute metric. But yeah, I think it's good to have something concrete. And you can even go to like the stem snap method, or like it feels a little crunchy on the outside, and then jar it, and then check like Tao was talking about with RH or whatever in the jar, where your relative humidity is, if it gets above 70, you're really at risk, right? If you seal that jar up and it's above that for a while, um, you want to keep it in that, 55 to 64 range, I would say. A lot of people shoot like 62. I think a lot of the Bovita and Integra packs set that
Yeah,
range.
and
55 or
Integra.
58 too. I'm not a fan of Bovita. They definitely take the terpenes from the bud. You'll pull them out and smell them after like a week, and they smell like bud, which they've absorbed some of the smell from your buds. It's not like oh, they just, it's honestly they've done. I've seen testing. Integra less so, but still a little bit. So I'm not a big fan of any of the moisture pack unless you absolutely have to.
Yeah, if I
And
was in
yeah,
a place where it was super dry, maybe I would consider that.
we talk about other ways you could do it too. Put in a wet leaf in the jar and the little raw ceramic thingy that you could wet down and it won't be too wet. So yeah.
I
Yeah, that raw hydro stone is what I
Hmm.
use, but just a little terracotta disc or puck, and you wet it and drop it in, and it slowly releases the moisture into the jar. The thing that I don't love about using a leaf or a stem or orange peel or any of those other things is they can dump a lot of moisture even quicker than people might realize. So if you're not like actively watching it over the next hour, two, three, after you put it in there, it can cause problems. And orange peel, I would just absolutely throw out. Like, don't ever do that, because that can create molds and things that wouldn't already have been in there. Leaf is less of an issue if the leaf doesn't already have molds on it, like from your cannabis plant, or even stem. Less of an issue in my book, but still, I'd rather use the hydrostone just because it's something that can be sterilized and has a consistent release. Like it only takes on so much moisture and it can only let it off so fast. So it's a relatively safe option. And they even make like little jars that have lids with the readers in the top, so you can see exactly when your RH gets to a certain point and make sure that they don't stay in there for too long.
like shout out to what about Bob in chat? He says set your relative humidity in a tent to 60 and then seal your jars inside the tent. Yeah, that's something I like to do too, is have a space that's conditioned to where you want it to be anyway, and then use that as your storage space. And then when you do open a jar, it's going to be at least at the right humidity being refreshed into it. Just like having good dedicated dry space is also a good tip.
I couldn't agree more. It's very convenient when you don't have to like worry about when I was in Arizona visiting my in-laws, when you open up a jar, it gets like instantly dry. Like the bud, it could have been perfect here in California, but by the time you're there, you open up the jar and like in 0 to, 10% relative humidity, it just jumps in that jar and the RH just plummets and the buds immediately start drying out. Like, especially if they've been curing for a little while.
Oh, you know what? Someone just reminded me. Someone said they put a Q-tip in there, a white Q-tip, but you could use a stem too, a brand new stem from a harvested plant, because that's a good idea. Because then you could put one that'll go to the bottom of the jar and the top of the jar. So if you put a wet leaf on the top, it will work. Because I put in like slightly over dried cannabis, put in a wet leaf, sealed the mason jar up. The next day I come back, that leaf is crumbly dry, and the buds have absorbed some of that moisture for sure. So, but a stem, I forgot someone. I never did it, but someone mentioned it once, and it makes a lot of sense to me. If you got a clean, good stem, stick it in the jar, and it'll moisten from the top to the bottom. Pretty good.
Our connection might have been off, but I did mention that literally on the show like 5 minutes ago.
Oh, I must maybe yeah. I'm kind of in
It's
and
tough. No,
out.
sometimes we're reading chat and then sometimes it
Yeah.
cuts in and
My
out. And
apologies, Jack.
no, it's all good, man. I mentioned it as I said, like a stem or a leaf. So I kind
Okay,
of
yeah.
combined the two and didn't put the focus on just the one. Doc actually, I think, prefers stem for some reason. I think he said it releases the moisture a little bit more slowly, and that's why he actually preferred stems
Okay.
to leaves. So
Yeah, interesting.
the shape too, I think, is convenient because like buds won't necessarily like get covered over like a leaf could, just like my thing, like could get over top of a bud like this, where a stem is just going to kind of like sit up next to it, depending on wherever it's at in the jar. It's not going to totally envelop it at any point. Have you guys tried the groove bags or grove bags?
Yeah, I like the grow bags. Well, I haven't. I have a big gallon grow bag that I use to just put my weed in when I'm traveling. So because it keeps it from it's like a scent proof. But I haven't had any issues with it. I know that it's got the two-way moisture valve or whatever supposedly in it too, but I haven't really used it for that purpose. I'm sure it works. But it works really good for the scent blocking. I know that for sure.
One of the things I saw as a critique of them was that like basically any food grade bag has that two-way valve or whatever. And I don't know if that's true or not. I didn't think that it was, but like if that is the case, then that'd be a hell of a business they'd be running over there, just basically slapping a label on something and doing the can attacks kind of
Well,
thing.
they also have it's black, so like it blacks it out. So that's also a cool thing.
That's true. I know that there are like black, uh, not turkey bags. You probably could get a black turkey bag, but like that style of, I get black vacuum seal bags for things I won't get into. But yeah, it's nice because uh, it blocks out light and visibility for, outside detection and things like that. So it's a great
Keeps
option
light
to
from
have.
getting in and degrading your buds, man.
Yeah. Well, and the vacuum seal keeps oxygen out and keeps your buds good for a long, long time. Vacuum sealers are amazing. I'll say that. Every grower, that should be like on your checklist if you don't already have one. You might
Vacuums,
think, I don't
yeah,
need
they're an
that.
essential tool for sure. I love those.
I
Up
concur.
until they break, then I get pissed at them, and then I go buy another one.
I always get them like on sale on a particular website that a lot of people hate, but uh, you know, they've lasted me. I've had two now, and like the one lasted me like over a year. And if I like put a value on what it actually did for me, like what I was able to get out of it,
Yeah.
it's uncomparable to
Yeah.
what I paid. That's a lot of things in growing though. That's the beauty of like growing is like even if I get free herb or whatever, like I don't know, you could still just get such a great ROI. And like if whatever little I invest in my soil and pots or electricity, I get amazing one of a kind, homegrown. Like that it's it's and I maybe feel more arrogant now to say that because it's actually been a while and like I've had like professionally grown big business industry whatever and like even like other more experienced than me home growers and this and that um but I really do think it's like you grow for your own head, you know what you like, no one knows what you like better than yourself, and eventually if you dial things in and you're honest with yourself you'll just keep getting better and better, and then you can just I don't know, when you don't have access to a wider variety, because I only have like one, maybe two strains of my own in my Curador right now. It's I don't know, not as freeing to have a. I like people like Spartan and anybody who can hold a stable of like multiple clones and just like have X, Y, and Z, like at least three, like a indica sativa hybrid, right? At least three things on hand. I do want to say welcome to seedperson1 and Noah the Grow is actually jumping in. So
All
cheers,
right.
seedperson1.
Cool.
What's up, fellas?
Welcome.
Oh man, good to
I'm
hear from you.
I'm super ripped right now, so if I misspeak or anything, I apologize. I've been doing hash under the glass, art man style.
I was gonna
Uh,
say, I saw that in chat, man. Hell yeah.
yeah, but I figured I'd jump on and say what's up.
Awesome.
Awesome, man. Yeah, welcome in and cheers to Noah the Grower who just joined us as well. Cheers, Noah.
Cheers. How's it going, everybody?
Cheers,
Just
Noah.
jumping in. Sorry I'm late. It was at a birthday party, but happy to be here.
Glad you made it.
No worries. We were doing a little Q&A earlier. We actually didn't get a ton of questions, but one earlier they were talking about reverse osmosis water, and I think you might have used that in the past, Noah. And if you did use RO water, how would you remineralize it before using it in the garden?
I haven't done a whole lot of RS water myself personally. I actually use the Berkey water filter on recommendation from fellow panelist Spark Grown, and I love it. And that's if someone asked me how to filter their water, that's what I would do because I've had great results. I think it improves the taste, getting all that stuff out of there, and yeah, I love it. That's what I do personally. So it's kind of like somebody else that I know that grows said I don't grow cannabis. I haul water. So
Well, that was like me. I was talking earlier when I was using RO, I was, hauling two 5-gallon jugs, which are just under 100 pounds. So it's actually a pretty good workout. to and from, wherever my local dispenser thing was. And I think the exercise is called a farmer's carry, where you basically like hold two weights on your side and you just like walk with them. And it's because like farmers often carry like a bale of hay or whatever they have to carry across the farm. And it's just like a good shoulder, back, etc. workout. And man, you would be surprised how heavy water is. And especially when you have to start lugging it around regularly. And I still do it for my wife and I because I like to have even purer drinking water available to ourselves at the house than what comes out of the tap. Even though it's like clean and I could survive off of it, I do prefer the taste of a certain type. So I go out of the way to make sure me and my wife have the good, right? But that said, uh, seed person, how's the garden?
It's doing all right, man. I got a lot going on. You want to see?
Sure, if it's lit up.
Yeah.
I know you're sending out lots of seeds. We were on fucking talking shit with Eagle and Tao was showing off some of your autos that you sent over to him. So he's stoked on that. I was stoked to see him. It actually convinced me that tonight I'm popping some seeds.
Yeah. What are
And
you popping?
they're gonna be Project V, Vortex F2, and I have to give the honor to Spartan because the last grow that I did start and I ended up killing off, um, the Project V was like the best of like the 3 or 4 strains that I started by a pretty long shot. So this time I'm just gonna start Project V and Pheno Hunt, the best ones.
Oh, sweet.
I got some of those seeds via Art Man,
Nice.
and yeah, I
I'm
I was
glad to
gonna
see
grow them,
this.
but I got some other stuff first. Um, but yeah, here I can run you through all this if you'd like, real quick. Um, this is a Durban tie crossed to Cindy 99. That is the Platinum Float to Green Crack. That's the Goth Girl. This is a Flapjacks. This is Fruity Pebbles OG. And then down here, I got a bunch of clones. These are all 9-pound hammer clones that I'm actually trying to sex while still in the rooting plugs. And actually, I got one of them showed a pistol, so I know one of
Nice.
them's a female, but no roots, which is pretty crazy.
Nice.
How's
Yeah,
your nose right now? Is it blown out or can you still smell stuff?
I can smell stuff pretty good.
What's
Why?
the front left one? I'm curious about that. The Cindy 99 Durban, I think tie or something.
Yeah, that's what it is. From Brothers Grimm. Let me see.
I love their work, man.
It's like a Sprite, kind of spritey, like that really bubbly in your nose lemon lime, with
Nice.
something else in there. I don't know, some sort of herb or some floral maybe. Yeah,
Awesome, man.
I would go
Looking
closer,
good.
but I have a connection issue when I get into the tents. So,
No, it's
but
all good. You're doing great, and I can see it just fine. Nice top cola, and then the lowers are all pretty even and pretty thick. It's looking like it's late flower, maybe week or a
it's like
couple weeks.
day 66 or something from flip. So probably about a week more.
Nice.
Over here, I got a bunch of other stuff. This is the Flapjacks, which is this one is the same as this one. That's a clone. And then this is another Flapjacks because I found this plant that was super frosty and it tasted great. And then I didn't take a clone. Then I tried to re-veg it and I did. And then I went on a trip and I came back and it was dead. So I popped more seeds and now I have clones of all this stuff. But this is the closest that I could find to it. So I actually took a clone of it. I'm trying to spray it to reverse it right here. I have not seen any pollen sacs. I've been spraying it for like, I think 12 days now and nothing yet. We'll see.
Well, garden's looking good. The back row is definitely the tall ladies and way further along than everything else, and looking solid. I
You
still
see
like
this?
the Cindy Durban tie.
I like the
Oh, that's a
chocolate.
crazy. Like, is that a fim or just like a
Nope.
mutation?
It just grew like that.
Wild. It's like a triple top for the listeners out there that are maybe just listening to the podcast as you're driving around or doing whatever you're doing out there during your day or night, whenever you listen to this. But yeah, C person one's got a pretty crazy triple topped plant. It really you see the cola going up and you see just the single stalk and then like it almost looks like it was topped like the last day before you flipped a flower or something like 3 times or like it got a FIM or something, but it's just a mutation. That cola looks great. Like otherwise, none of the other stuff
Yeah.
seems deformed or Looks well developed and healthy.
So this is a different pheno of the same flapjack strain, and it's got a double as well down here.
What's your media and pot size?
So these are all in 1 gallon, and I'm using Pro Mix, and I use the GH Trio, and I feed every single watering pretty much.
Nice.
Just the minimum, like
Yeah.
the lowest dose that they have on their feed chart.
I was gonna say not full strength, right? Yeah.
Right.
I think that's
Good work.
like the Dr. MJ kind of special. Like you just give it always low and slow and steady. Like you tend to not have problems. I keep it in like I like the 1.4, 1.5 UC range, but like maybe up to like 1.7, 1.8, depending on the plant. And if you just keep giving that every day and don't let them dry out too much and measure the runoff UC. Don't let it get super high. They tend to be pretty happy. Got a lot going on in here.
This is like the library or whatever, the stable.
Backups and
Yeah,
babies.
yeah. These are all these plants up here, 9 pound hammer. And then I have backups of all 4 of them, plus the ones that are in the other tent, that are flowering. And then this is a flapjacks. That's a flapjacks. And then I got that's another flapjacks. But these 3 here are going to be the next 3 that I take clones and sex and pick one. This is Hollyweed cross to TKM10.
Nice.
And that's like supposed to be some like really old school Afghani stuff. And I got that from Daga. And then I also got this as a little OG Kush back here. So the plan eventually is that I'm gonna pop a couple more of those OG Kush when I have room. I'm gonna pick my favorite OG Kush, my favorite of these, if I find one that I like. Otherwise, I have more seeds. My favorite flapjacks, and then my favorite 9 pound hammer, and do like a seed run with those.
Nice. Living up to the name, seedperson1. Killing it.
Send them out to the community. Oh yeah, and I'm gonna
Love.
do a Fruity Pebbles OG cross
Hemp.
with that too.
Hemp for anybody out there listening.
Hemp seeds, yeah.
Hemp seeds, hemp cuts, 0.3% THC or less.
Oh,
Oh, the
so
herbs now.
there's now already got the
Shout out,
green
man.
one. It's got that fancy green one.
Green trays, those are made in America, actually, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he's after he switched to the American stuff, he had the new trays, but they don't quite fit. They're just a slightly different size. But I'm OCD, so it works fine. But this is a
frosty.
Shining Silver Haze from Royal Queen Seeds. I probably took it down a little bit early, but I needed the room, and this is mostly just for head smoke. So the stuff in here is more like work stuff for myself that I'm like working on actively, and then I grow a couple plants where I'm just smoking it, you know.
Hey, man, the pistils are orange, even if it happened during the dry. And even if it was a little on the early side, I think early sativa is some of the best. If you actually like let the nugs develop it to be at the point where you are right now. I do this too for herbs now. People out there put a little stick in your herbs now, so you have that as a reference point to snap, as opposed to having to mess with the buds.
Not ready yet. Yep.
Makes life
I
a
love
lot
it.
easier.
It's my insurance. Make sure I get it right every time.
Honestly, it helps to have an SOP and a standard practice, and that thing has done nothing but great work for me. So
We should shout out Scott and get him on the show. He's been doing the shows again lately.
him and I are like cool too. We've only had good rapport. He seemed like I've put lots of good, information out there about it, like my use of it, and I'm positive. And a lot of people are like haters. The thing is, like he'll probably come on just to talk or whatever. He won't do like promo codes. He won't do sponsorship deals because they sell out so fast. Like proof is in the product. The dude, he sells as many as he makes, and he sells them as fast as he like. It's as many haters as there are out there. Of all products I've ever come across, like of ones that I've used, I have had more hate about that product from people who've never used it than any other product that I've used, suggested, come across, etc. And I was one of the haters.
Yeah, I was
And
gonna say,
before I
didn't you
used
talk
it,
shit back in the day?
oh, for sure, 100%. I was constantly saying like, you can't rush the dry. It's too hot. We got Tao over here sharing some. Oh, it's a seed catalog. We got M9 skunk. developed by Sacred Seeds, M10 Afghani. So he's going to show us the Sacred Seeds. M10 Afghani is the Afghani 1 pure indica. For 5 generations, produce squat round plant with thick, heavy buds, very consistent. Variety with less than 5% deviations. The smoke has extremely strong narcotic high. It has dark blue/green leaves, and a percentage will turn purple if cold is induced. The plant is finished in the middle of October. The yield is between 200 to 700 grams with a modus plus or minus 400 grams. And indoors, experienced plantlet method growers can harvest 400 grams per square meter, and it's $45 for a 20 pack from Sacred Seeds whenever this was generated. Tao, thank you for that reference point.
And I wish I could get that deal right now.
Oh, hell yeah, man. I wish those genetics were preserved and available in the exact method that they, you know, were back then. It's certainly changed a bit
Yeah.
over the
Thanks for
time.
reading. I didn't realize I was muted, but yeah, that's what I wanted to show. Perfect.
You were muted, so I was just like, fuck it.
Yep.
I didn't know if you were
Awesome.
able to share and unmute at the same
I
time or
couldn't. Yep. Thank you. But
I
yeah,
was
that's
like,
pretty cool. That the M10 is one of the half of seedperson1 seeds you got going. That's cool.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. All this stuff is like indica, very indica dominant. So I'm trying to make like a bunch of medical, sleepy, pain relief stuff. And the goth girl is more sativa, like head smoke, but I want to do like a medical run for people that actually like can use it medically to grow it themselves and then send it out all over the place again.
I will say Rick Simpson famously used 5 indica strain blend when he started making his RSO, and I think that there is power to the quote unquote indica. I saw a post recently again, like, is indica or sativa even a real thing? Like, sent I think it was at a dispensary. They had a sign out front. It's like indica, sativa are botany terms and don't describe like the way the plant makes you feel or something. But at this point, I think it's become part of the lexicon. And indica sativa is basically like saying uplifting, sedating, or broadleaf or narrowleaf, depending on the context or conversation in which you're having. So I see both sides of it. Broadleaf isn't always narcotic or sedating. Narrowleaf isn't always uplifting. So it is more of almost like a stereotype about the plant at this point, where sometimes or maybe even often true, but not always. And it shouldn't be the end all be all.
Yeah, I've often said that this is what I've kind of settled on. Is I think it's better to use them as adjectives to describe something rather, like when we're describing a high, indica sativa makes sense of rather than saying 30 words to describe that high. Or when we're describing the way a plant grows, indica sativa, are the classic indicas and sativa. I don't want to like argue over it, but classically, the shorter squatter plants or the taller thin leaf varieties, I think it still works, and I don't think we have to throw them out. I think that the work that still works as an adjective to describe those things, but I don't think it works as a noun to describe like this is an indica, separation, and this is a sativa separation as far as the plant, because like you said, you could have an indica high and a sativa plant growth, or vice versa. So
That's why you got to find the phenos first before you do the crosses, so you know what's in the seeds, and you can put those sleepy strains together. I would just call them sleepy strains.
That's fair. I will say, like, from doing my research and like when I put 50 strains of green out, some people are like, hey, green crack makes me fall asleep. And it's like, yeah, but like 99 out of 100 people, it like lifts them up. So I put little caveats in there, like, each strain has different phenos and everyone has a different endocannabinoid system. You might drink a cup of coffee and it puts you to sleep, but 90% of people who drink coffee get energy from it. And so it's important to realize that there's general trends and not everyone's going to get the same effect. But across the board, like in a circle, 9 out of 10 people are saying the same thing. Then you've got a pretty good idea that that's probably how it's going to make most people feel.
yeah,
Not
and we
everyone.
can't forget that there is precedence. It's in the public mind space. It's there. We can pretend like it's not there, but that's the language that people use to talk about it. So I don't know. I like to try to work with what we have and steer it towards the right direction. Like
Well, and what you said earlier is so prudent, and that's I could say it is sedating. It is stimulating. Like, I could use 30 different words to describe something, or I could tell you one word and then get you down the pathway. Because, like, if you're like, I want something for daytime, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to show you our sativas if I'm a bud tender. That's something that might come out of someone's mouth. And they wouldn't be wrong or stupid or ignorant to say that. Just like people aren't wrong to say strain. It's like people still are like, oh, it's cultivar, it's chemovar, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, aren't you so elitist? Like that your term has to be the only term, right? And it's like it's language, right? We can use different terms, and there's not only one way to describe something. And so I'm actually glad that we have a broad vocabulary of terms for ourselves to describe this incredibly difficult to describe plant. Actually, there are like even if you just get down to the chemical levels, maybe 500 or more minor chemicals within at least 1 to 200 on every single one of the tests I see. And they usually discount like the top 100 or whatever, but that's still a shit ton. There's a lot of fucking stuff going on. So with that said, it's just like I'll spotlight myself here, Okie, so that way we can go ahead and let you get your camera going without risk of showing yourself off to the audience if you're not trying to show your face cam. Because right now it'll just show me, and then I think they moved it on Zoom. I think it's down low now. When you tap on it, it like makes you go into like the little camera thing, and then you have to go like to the bottom side to click the little camera with the reverse Uno card arrows,
Uh,
and then that will allow you to flip your camera around. And it looks like you
yeah.
have done so now. We've got a garden going. We got earth boxes, not earth boxes, city pickers going. We got some lights mounted. Okie Grower, welcome back. Good to see you again. How's it going?
How's it going, guys?
Cheers, man. Good to see you. I like your slaps, man, on your container over there.
Oh, how about that?
Oh, you got a GML one too. Nice.
That's the HPS CMH.
Oh, that Torch 850.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
the Torch 850.
Awesome, man. Good to see it hanging
That's
there.
Yeah, I won it about a month ago off of the Gmail show.
Sweet, man. How you liking it?
Loving it. Loving it, man. It's awesome. And just got these are Nuketown from Irie Genetics, which it's Chernobyl across the Golden Goat.
Oh, nice.
That's gonna be fire, dude. Shout out to Jeff. Ross to Jeff over at
Yeah.
Irie Genetics. Great dude.
Oh yeah.
Grow from Your Heart
Yeah.
podcast. If you haven't checked it out, he's been doing it for way longer than us.
Long ass
Killing
time.
it, man. Like if 800, some crazy amount of episodes.
Yeah. And these are April O'Neil, also from Irie. These it's Indiana bubble gum across the blueberry cookies.
I saw some good stuff out of his like blueberry butcher crosses, which I think had the same one of the same parents on that. So might be some fire waiting in there. And this one looks like it's got 3 plants in it. The other's got 2.
Uh,
Like we were just
yeah, I
talking about
got
multiple plants.
yeah, I
Yes.
got 3 crammed in this one, and these are also Nuketown, the Chernobyl Golden Goat. Look like they're all doing pretty good. This one's
Dude,
a little
those are gonna be
shorter
so
back
fun.
here.
Those are gonna be so terpy. I'm interested to see what comes out of those because that's some good cross right there.
So when
Chernobyl,
I did the
limey.
uh, Earth box that had 3 in it, go back to the one on the far left, Oki. I
Yeah.
had my one in the back corner would have been basically the Sangria by Subcool. And I had that between 2, I think it was this Velvet Punch, I'm pretty sure. But the Velvet Punches grew right over the Sangria and just swallowed it out. So it almost looked like these, like the 2 Nuketowns on the front center and the back right are going to grow up and like almost shade out potentially the smaller one, unless it has a really nice bolt or rest of its veg.
Yeah, possibly. Well, I'm gonna put up a net, so I'm gonna put up a trellis all the way across and strog them out to try and fill like all the way to the wall and all the way across with everything.
Yeah, you got plenty of space, and that light is a beast, man. I could just tell by looking
Oh
at the
yeah.
amount of bars, and I don't know the specs of it 100%. Spartan is our GML lighting rep here, but that thing
Off
is
the top of my
you
head, I think
can.
it's probably 850 watts, 150 watts of added blue on one channel, and the rest is like a 750 watts, I believe, or no, that would leave 700 watts, 750
Yeah.
watts of the HPS yellow kind of spectrum. And so, but between the two, you can mix and match spectrums.
Good stuff. What kind of soil are
Got
you
some
running,
old
Oki?
stickers there. So the two on the outer side have Royal Gold Kings mix, and then the one in the center has the Build a Soil 3.0.
Oh, both good soils.
I'm actually thinking about getting that 3.0 for my next run, but
Yeah.
I'm a little undecided. I think I want to just go local.
Just did a little top dress with the 444.
If somebody just
High
asked me about
grade.
this, when you use
Sky
that, do
green.
you add some sort of calcium source? Because they were asking.
This
Um,
has a bunch of calcium in it.
okay, I told them to add extra. I was like, if it's a
See,
444,
it's got 12% calcium.
oh well.
Oh, that's got a good amount. And
And
good.
I think they
It's
said that
not
they already had
sulfur.
other stuff in there too, like I'll pull it up.
It's got,
A little bit of sulfur. I like that too.
yeah, fish bone meal, feather meal, alfalfa, green sand.
They also
I
use
really like it.
gypsum.
Works really good. Yeah, it's got some gypsum in it.
Little humic acid. I like that. It looks like a good product.
A lot of
Yeah.
people have reported having good results. I've seen people use this for years at this point, so I'm pretty sure if it's been around for that long, it's going to have good results. One thing I will call out, I've been seeing a lot of people have issues with grow dots. Not a shot at a shot at Scotty Real, but I think they're still dialing that stuff in. So I would buyer beware. If I love recharge, so I'm not going to try and just sit here and bash a guy with a podcast in the cannabis space. I love recharge. I think it's an awesome product. The Real Growers Recharge, awesome. Grow dots, I've never used them myself, so I can't directly say. I have had a dozen growers come to me with issues, and they're all using grow dots and all having issues. Not to say that all grow dot users are, but of the ones that have talked to me, they're all struggling. So I think it can be used well if you really know what you're doing with them, but beware with that stuff for sure. Maybe talk to Scotty directly and figure out how he's getting them to work. But I would just recommend some other stuff that's more tried and true at this point. Sorry for
I
that
will.
side.
I did use them for some autos, and the mistake I made, I think, was that I had them in Ocean Forest or something. No, I was using Happy Frog, but I think they're designed more for cocoa. That was my problem.
Okay. I didn't know that, to be honest. I would have probably tried using it in a soil mix. So I'm glad that you brought that up as a consideration because yeah, it's not everything works in every media. And it might just need adjustments if it's going from one to another. Have you used that stuff in the past? Okie, that Gaia 444, I think it was Gaia Green, maybe.
Yeah, I've usually used it for like reset, and then depending on how long I end up vegging, a little bit. I also use Brandon Rust's that smart carbon, but I'm about out of it. So I've been trying to save it and use a little bit of this top dressing stuff.
I just saw some email. I think he restocked in something, maybe a K humate or N humate, one of
Yeah, the
them.
K you mate, he just got back in stock. Yeah.
Shout out to Brandon Russ, man. Another dude out there who's just absolutely killing it. And I can't support him more. Like he's got great products. He's killing it in the garden and life. From where when I met him to now, I, I set goals and I thought my goals were lofty sometimes. But that dude's just absolutely impressive. The work ethic and his ability to dream and make shit happen. He's dedicated and hardworking and very intelligent. Some people, I, I've had people online like bad talk Brandon to me. Like, do you not know that we're on like a show together? Like, I love this dude. He's like a friend. But he's very intelligent. Like, I think some people judge somebody based on their looks alone, and it's just like maybe they don't look how you expect them to look. But like, he's well educated at this point in this space specifically, and like the proof is in the pudding. Look at his fucking plants and all the grows that he consults with. He's killing it. So, I mean, everything he's ever mentioned or brought up, I've always been able to independently research myself and find the sources and links, or he'll actually just provide them. Like, hey, I printed this out. Like, check out this new research. And he's open-minded. He initially, for a long time, was like just doing, he was doing hydro when I first, talked to him and got into living soils. And, it's everybody goes through their phases, but big fan of Brandon Russ. Can't advocate people. Check out bokashiearthworks.com and Bokashi Seed Vault because there's some pretty killer cuts and stuff going out there too, and seeds available. So He generally does small runs too. He's like truly like a boutique. You're not gonna get 10,000 packs of a Brandon Russ Cross. There might be 100 or 200 or something like that, and then they're gone. So
I got his carbon-based nutrients in my grow right now. Love those things. Agree with Okie Grower. Good stuff.
my only qualm, and I love Brandon, and this is to show you that Jack is not Mr. Bias over here. I hate bottles. One of my favorite products is friggin' his Micro Plus, but it comes in a bottle, and like it's one of the things that makes me like it lasts so long that I don't, regret buying it or whatever.
Well, they don't
But
recycle bottles out there in
plastic is
California.
just not really recyclable. Like if you look into the nitty gritty, like plastic really doesn't get recycled. Like small percentage.
Yeah.
It
Did
sure
you?
doesn't get recycled. I've seen some documentaries on that. It's kind of interesting.
I have two now. I was just going to
I bet
mention
you have, Tal.
they like put one of those trackers and just to find out where these empties go. They go to the recycling plant and then they put on a different truck right to the landfill. So yeah, it's really questionable for
Some
sure.
places have that for sure.
Well, it sounds like they're recycling it to garbage then. So they're recycling it.
I saw that tout locally here actually once. And like it makes me question like a lot of things. Like they have these garbage trucks that have like it says like runs on natural gas, like clean burning natural gas that like we generate with our landfills or whatever. And then like I was with a family, we dropped off some stuff and it was like plant material, right? And like you drop off like from doing work around their house into this area and it's supposed to be like this is like the plant material area, right? But then like other people roll up with like furniture and then like other people roll up with garbage and then like 30 minutes go by and like a big tractor came and just pushed them all to fucking together in a giant pile. So it's like we were pulling into separate bays pretending like these things were going to be separated. And then I hung around long enough to see it just all get thrown together. I'm like, what the actual fuck? Like, this is San Diego, like Southern California. Like, we're supposed to like be like, fairly cutting edge and on top of it. But it just goes to show, like, just because they make a regulation doesn't mean that they actually follow through with it and monitor it and make sure that the things that are supposed to be happening are happening. So,
One of my one of my really good friends that I've known since I was in high school, he works for the local recycling, and like he actually was like sorting stuff coming off of the recycling, like just everything gets poured onto like this, like I don't even know, like conveyor belt. And like he said, you wouldn't believe the stuff that people try to recycle or putting in those blue recycles. That's the local color or whatever around here that you put out. He said you
blue
wouldn't
here.
believe the stuff that gets put in there. And believe me, the recycling is pretty fishy. That's all I'm gonna say.
Even like something that I'm an advocate for, aluminum is a product that can be recyclable. It's like almost infinitely recyclable. 95%. I'm drinking out of an aluminum can right now. So I would think, but if you take a piece of sandpaper and you grind this down, just like any other, actually this one's just a water, so maybe it's not. But anyone that's like a Coke or a Pepsi or Mountain Dew, any of these sodas, they have a plastic liner inside it to keep it from corroding the plastic
Yep.
or the aluminum. So a lot of these drinks are not in an actual aluminum can. So
So
that's
you're
just like
saying the plastic is making it so that the aluminum can continue to be not ruined and can be recycled. Cool.
So
I guess maybe.
The
Yeah, they just
green
like burn the plastic off
microplastics.
in the process. That's the
The green
5%. 95% is
microplastics.
recycled, the 5% is the liner.
So what my buddy said, there's a few things that they really desire, and it was kind of interesting to hear because, like I said, he worked there and he was like a high up too. They like the green glass because they like to recycle the green glass because they don't have to stain it. They love actual cardboard that doesn't have plastic in it because they use that over and over again. Another thing that they really, really like that I thought was interesting. He said one plastic that they do try to recycle a lot of is milk jugs. They like milk jugs, and then they like aluminum cans. That's all he said that they recycled. Everything else went in the trash. Allegedly, that's what I heard.
I would trust whoever said that from the
I
research
mean, he
I've
worked
done.
there for a couple of years, so
Yeah. I've
Yeah.
been in some of these facilities as well.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's honestly the case a lot of the time.
It's also a very cautionary tale to anyone that might want to use the municipal compost, quote unquote, because God only knows what the hell is in that shit. So I would
Some
avoid
of them
that.
actually use human biosolids and they'll come
Yeah.
out right out and say it. Like that's
That
part of
if it's processed properly, perhaps, but there's other stuff in there. Like the dudes that raking up their leaves are throwing in God knows what. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't trust it.
Properly processed is like a relative term. I'll say that. There's a lot of stuff in like human
Right.
excrement and even like urine. Like the amount of like pharmaceutical stuff that goes into Americans' waste is that's a lot of like lithium can't be taken away from the water. So it's like that stuff gets into the water supply and it's extremely difficult to take out. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff that gets into the water supply that's not fun and not easy to deal with or looked at or tested for. We got to get back on the grow topic. We've got like 25 minutes left and
Drink
Spartan's only
more
here for 10
water.
minutes. Drink more water. It's what the plants crave. Maybe not electrolytes, but they do crave some of the nutrients that we also can get from our foods.
Yeah, maybe you can get a crazy high from the water too.
I've been trying to get Lady Greenstock to watch the movie Idiocracy with me,
I was just
and
gonna
That's a
say,
great
don't be
movie.
watering your plants with that Gatorade. Don't be doing that.
it's not what they crave,
It's
despite
not what
that
they could.
being a hilarious
That's
movie.
where
I think
Crocs got their start was Idiocracy.
literally I was just about to mention that. That's so funny because like they were like, we need a shoe that looks so stupid that like maybe people in the future might wear it, but it's
Hey
like so
now.
dumb none of us would wear it. And then they ended
Hey
up getting
now.
really popular.
Harsh words, man. Harsh
That
words.
was the creators' suggestion. That was their own words. I'm like quoting like an article that I read about why they used Crocs because it was an upstart company and like no one had heard of them or really seen them because they shot it in like 2005. It came out in like
Yeah.
2008 or something, but Crocs didn't hit until like 2008, 2009, 2010 or whatever for the most part. And yeah, it's just funny that they never realized that it was going to go on to become this gigantic organization. We got Tao over here with some plants again. I'm going to spotlight you again. Tao, if you can turn your camera to the side, if it's not locked, it might show us a little bit better full screen.
Oh, look at all there's some more than one plants in one pot. Look at
Yeah,
that.
that's kind of why it came up. So all these are, except for one, are all the auto flower seedlings from seedperson1, Lilac Diesel by Banana. Except for that one. That one's the proprietary. And then I ran out of gallon jugs. I actually have one in a solo cup, which I'll probably move into something, but I ran out of the gallons. So I started putting them in here. I got 4 in this one, actually, and then 3 in these two. And these are 5 gallon. This one, obviously, I should have filled up a little further, but I could top dress if I have to. And so these actually have a little bit more if it was full, I guess, than a gallon each for each plant. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see. I'm not upplanting the ones in the gallon containers. I'm just going to see what they can do like that. So we'll see. But shout out to Seed Person. Every seed came up except for like 2, and that could have been my problem, but they're all up and running. So thank you, Seed Person, and
Oh yeah.
that's all I got for today.
Those regular seeds?
No, they're fat. They're
They're
auto
all
fat.
fems? Oh,
Yep.
nice.
So
Oh,
yeah, I don't
great.
have to worry as much. And like I was saying, this area isn't dialed in. I bet you it's a little dry at times. So
Yeah,
It's
they'll flip pretty quick if you keep them in those pots too, probably.
seed person. Tell us about that cross, the banana auto fem cross to the.
Yeah, so those were mostly just testing out. That was the first time I ever reversed a plant. And I figured that it never hurts to be able to throw a pack of fem autos to somebody just to play with. And so when I was practicing, I picked two different they were both from Ethos. One I purchased the Lilac Diesel, and then I got the banana as a freebie. And I had a different auto that I purchased that I was going to do with the cross, but the banana sounded really enticing, so I decided to go with that. And they both grew like about 5 feet. The Lilac Diesel was super chunky, and I didn't. There wasn't much banana smell off of the banana, but I started spraying before it went into flower, so you never know what you're going to get with an auto, really. But yeah, those turned out pretty good. I actually didn't grow any of them because I was doing it as a practice, and then I moved on to the actual things I was trying to do, which was reverse the green crack. And yeah, I threw them out to the community as well, and some people have grown them out. Somebody who was it? I think it was APM said that him and a buddy have been growing it and finding like a armpit pheno is what they're calling it. So I don't
Nice.
know. They seem to like it. So yeah,
I love some funk.
yeah.
Banana tends to have a lot of potency in my experience. Any banana strain I've smoked has been like really potent. Um, Interesting that the funk is in there because funky strains tend to be pretty potent in my experience, like Donny Burgers and GMO and other related. Chem 4
Say
can
chem.
be, they can get funky, and even like chemically, like Gorilla Glue sometimes gets into that funky chem kind of range. Love all those strains. So whatever the full cannabinoid and terpene, etc. profile is, works with my endocannabinoid system for sure. And a lot of people, because like that's one Gorilla Glue and chems. Very rarely do you get complaints. Like maybe oh it's too potent is the chief complaint with some of the chems, but or they just don't like the flavor because maybe they don't like the smell of garlic or armpit or rotting whatever. Look at this, man. We've got all types of gardens going on today. We got Noah the grower coming in hot. It worked when you rotated it, so we're looking good.
Okay.
Yep, boom. What are we seeing here?
So let's take a look. Day wise. Okay, so this is like week 5, 12 flip. This is a Sherbaceo. That's a Dosilato. This is a permanent marker. These are all duct tape. It just worked out that way. This is a Oreos. That's Sherbaceo, and then those two are Dosilato right there. Oh, that one's Sunset Sherbet right there. Yeah.
Classic, man. I love that one.
Oh yeah. It's even the crosses. That's what the Sherbaceo is. That's a I think it's gelato cross with Sunset Sherbet, and it is awesome.
I got a recommendation for you if you come across it because you seem to get a lot of the cuts that get hot around here as well. And that's the RS11. If you see it, give it a
Okay.
shot.
I will.
Rainbow Sherbet number 11, Rainbow Sherbet 11, RS11. It is some fire. I'm a big fan. Always love seeing Noah's beautiful stable, man. And if you haven't checked out Noah the Grower on Instagram, because he's just got a camera roll full of just bud porn. Like he only posts flower nug shots. There's no like veg. It's just all dank nuggage, like all the entire Instagram page. So
I posted a few other things here and there, but yeah, it just seems like you know what I mean. There's not a lot of really good cannabis bud shots out there, so I try to help out. Just joking. I
I'm
thought it
with
was
you,
funny.
man. No, I'm with you. I totally agree. And to be
I love
honest, like that's one thing
it's the
that's
truth because of the goddamn logarithm, dude. I shit you not. Every time I put up a fucking picture of a bud shot now, every fucking time I'm shadow banned. Every fucking time. It does it's like I instantly get that fucking stupid notification and I gotta go in and what do you call it? Appeal it. And then a week goes by and they say we reviewed your thing and we didn't do anything wrong. And they're still, fucking with me. So
I try
yeah.
to trick them, and I'll do like broken up buds on like a rolling tray and like don't post any text, just like out of context, just like
Yeah.
zooming in out, and then like people know what it is, but then like yeah, I got so many things flagged, deleted, shadow banned, whatever. Um, they would say like I'm like selling guns or whatever, and it'd be like underneath it'd be like drugs, etc. I'm like, well, I'm not
Yeah.
selling anything. It says not for sale in the fucking post. Like I'm not doing it facetiously. Like it's really not for sale. Shit, it's just
Yeah, it's
I
frustrating. So
that platform sucks, but I do think it's going to get better. Some recent changes have happened, and the individual who's atop of that, Zuck, has actually, whether they live up to their word or not, has said that they were pressured by outside organizations such as the United States government, who put pressure on them to either shadow ban, delete, or block certain posts and accounts that they wouldn't have otherwise wanted to. So, and I know that was also going on at X before Elon purchased it. That came out in the Twitter files. So this isn't a conspiracy. We're not like delving into political bullshit. This is just like the reality of stuff that actually affects us because we post something that is not friendly to their platform, right? But Elon stance, which I got on X a while ago, because as soon as he said, as long as it's legal in your territory, we won't come after you. And I'm like, well, cannabis is legal in my territory. So I'm going to start posting over there and see if he lives up to it. And guess what? Not a single fucking post has been flagged, has been shadow banned. I've been able to engage with the community. I've been able to do everything over there. So that's why I post the show there every Monday now. And the community's awesome. It's been great. I'm happy. It's honestly, it's not a image sharing platform. I think Instagram actually has a very solid built technology. It's just that sometimes when regulation gets too much, it causes problems for the little people like us. And there's other niche content creators, whether you're like in like the adult space of any type, whether it's like sex or guns or even like alcohol. A lot of stuff's not advertiser friendly. And so fighting, self-defense, like a lot of the stuff that I seem to enjoy seems to be like shadow banned, censored, suppressed. So they have to use like Patreon, Rumble, Ustar, all these other like, Utra. Like there's so many different alternative platforms now, but like YouTube and Google and Facebook, they have the user base, and that's why all of us keep coming back here. But with that said, I've been rambling on long enough about this, and we've talked about it in the past. And it's time for Spartan Grown to give his final thoughts and shout outs before he gets running on over to another great show on YouTube, which is the Michigan Bros Grow Show, which starts in about 14 minutes now.
Well, I want to shout out Nuttree 420 in chat because he said that he's got some inside information. There is no show today, so I can hang out with you guys till the end. So I can hang out for another 15 minutes.
Oh, hell yeah. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Oh,
Definitely not kicking you out. You're more than welcome to hang. I'm happy to hear that. That's always a fun addition when we get you for an extra 15 minutes. To the Michigan Grow Show's loss of not just you, but everybody on the panel tonight. But you guys deserve a break. These shows are actually a lot harder to keep running for
yeah.
a long time than people give credit to.
And the Lions are playing, so that's a good reason, I'm sure.
I've been watching a lot of football this year, and it's been fun. I'm getting back into some, like I said, some of my old hobbies that I kind of brushed under the rug or like put to the side. Sometimes when you re-indulge in them, it's just like that nostalgia and like it taps into a nice place. And I think, yeah, it's good for people to go in and out sometimes and appreciate even more when you're back.
Yeah, man. I love I've always had a love for football. I was always into the college football more than pros, but still to watch I like to just get lost in a game. It doesn't matter who the fuck is playing. I'll sit there and watch. I don't know. I've always liked football. I understand football. It makes sense. There's rules. Black and white pretty much. There's there's some gray lines, I guess, but I
It's the
played it as
holding.
a kid. I played it as a kid. So, all of that stuff adds up to I could probably always sit down and be interested in the football game.
It's so physical too. It's Tom Brady got in
Yeah.
trouble for like comparing it to like almost like a war. But when like you
That's
look at like
exactly what all sports is. Why would you get in trouble for that? That blows my mind because that's what sports
veterans took it
simulated
offensively
war.
because he's not putting his life on the line. And I get it both sides.
Oh, really?
Um,
Nobody's died playing football?
People have for sure,
Yeah. Oh, so
but
I guess you are. Hmm.
it's
It's
a
not the
lot
same
less.
as going to war, no, but it's still a
Right,
simulated war. It still fucks
right,
your
right,
body
right.
up.
I think that it's probably for the best for society because it's replacing what would otherwise sometimes be war. It's getting hundreds of thousands of people. It's the Colosseum without the
True.
sacrifice,
It's
you
true.
know.
It's
And
keep
so I
yeah.
think that's a major importance of it. And it's entertainment, which gets people distracted. Give bread, give them cake, whatever, give them a circus. They'll be,
Yeah,
they
it
won't
is.
revolt.
Yeah, and I think we need some more people thinking on the revolt side of things, though, sometimes.
I think
Uh,
Right.
I love this world because there's stuff for everybody. And I think I think for sure football could do a lot more to be a lot more safe on the players, but they make too much money not to, so they don't give a fuck.
I just made an invention that would make football safer, like infinitely safer especially the NFL and NCAA could probably afford it too.
Is it
Oh,
where
But they
but
need
Rob,
they pipe in vape smoke to the oxygen things where they're usually pumping? Is that what you
there you
mean?
go.
Well, you know what? Funny you say that. Not related to my at all. Mine is completely unrelated to that. It's a technology that would keep the players safer, but I don't have the money or time to develop it or interest. But anyway, I just saw something that was talking about brain injuries. And in Israel, where they've been doing a lot of the best modern research about cannabis, their
Another
military
bird
has
site
found
too.
their military has found that after a concussion, they give a CBD THC nasal inhalation spray because it is so beneficial at reducing the negative impacts of brain injury instantaneously. So as soon as you get hit in the head, they immediately give them cannabis because they have shown the amount of long-term damage is so significantly reduced. I wish I had the exact study in front of me right now, but I'm sure you guys can look it up and find it. But that was really mind-blowing to me because a lot of people will say like, "Oh, Jack, you have such a good memory. You're sharp. You're so focused. Like you've had a lot of brain injuries, but you don't have a lot of the symptoms a lot of people have that had a lot of those brain injuries." And I think it's because I literally started smoking cannabis heavily when I started playing like tackle football in like middle high school level, seventh and eighth grade, where I was getting a lot of those brain injuries happening. And I would smoke after practice and, before and after games and stuff. Like I was definitely using it to, just have fun or whatever, but subconsciously, self-medicating and helping myself assist in my healing. And um, I didn't realize, we got education about concussions, but it wasn't enough to overcome the machismo of being raised in the Midwest by like
Right.
a dad
Especially
who is
football atmosphere, Jesus.
Friday Night Lights, baby.
my dad played in college and he played against Jack Lambert, who's like one of the most famous. They played in Kent State together. They knocked each other out in practice, running into each other. And his big brag was always he woke up before Jack Lambert from the smelling salts or whatever. So he'd always give him shit for that. They like played club hockey together.
Wow.
And Jack Lambert couldn't play hockey for shit, but he'd wear figure skating skates so he could tiptoe out onto the rink and he'd beat the shit out of people during the fights. So just a wild dude, man. But yeah, football, especially like, a lot of people are in the Midwest. It's a big part of the country, and a lot of people play football. A lot of people get injuries, brain injuries, bodily injuries, back, spine, arm, whatever. I heard my buddy's leg break in front of me, and then the other team laughed, and we went on to beat the shit. We scored like 40 points after that because we were all so pissed off and so motivated. That's why, like you said, like people die, people get injured. It is like a war. When my buddy Chris, his leg broke and it sounded like a gunshot went off. Like there was like a dog pile after he got tackled. Like three or four people stayed on him. The refs blew the whistle. They're trying to
It's when
pull
the
people
worst
off.
shit happens at the fucking dog pile, dude. It's the worst shit happens at the bottom of those, man.
And people just weren't getting off. And he was screaming, my leg, and bam, it sounded like a gunshot. And he started rolling around in pain. And then all the guys on their side, like, oh, my leg, my leg. They're making fun of him. And I was just like, we were so pissed. Like they didn't score a single point the rest of the game, and we just rolled them. It was the amount of like adrenaline and like even talking about it now, like it's just like 20 years ago. I'm still like pissed off about it. So
Oh yeah, sure, dude. I'd get pissed off. I wasn't even involved. That puts me in that spot, man.
it is a beautiful sport though, and I met some of my best friends there, and it gave me opportunities. Like that guy Chris went on to play for the Green Bay Packers. He sat behind me my entire life. Like I had to stop because I had spine and brain injuries, but it was an opportunity. My dad only went to college. He was the first and only one in my family uh, to have gone to college at that point because football. He had a scholarship, and so it provides opportunities. And for especially economically depressed individuals that are coming from hard environments, that's one of the only ways out. And there's mentorship and there's camaraderie between teams and
I was just gonna
responsibility.
bring that up too. I was like, just sometimes that structure to give you that structure and something that it'll straighten you out.
The thing is, the beauty of a team and a sport atmosphere is it inherently points out not everyone is the best at everything. There are guys that are faster, there are guys that are slower, there's bigger, stronger, more accurate with a throw. Not everyone can be the quarterback. Not everyone can be the starting lineman or whatever. And even there's a place for like backups and strategy type individuals, coaching assistants, things like that. Like it all plays, it's a giant machine. And like there's a great documentary, I think it's actually about Michigan, about sign stealing. And it's like a 30 for 30. And this guy's actually a military. He went to the military, grew up, raised loving Michigan, ended up going to the military for, I think it was 9/11 inspired him. And what he learned in the military, he applied to like football and like stealing other people's signs and stuff. And all these other schools are doing it, including like Ohio State and other schools that have gotten caught and
Not
gotten in trouble
Michigan
for it. But
State. Michigan State Spartans don't do that shit.
I had
But
a
U of
buddy who
M does
played,
that shit. They definitely. I just want to point out U of M does that shit.
my buddy Darian played for the Spartans when they went to the Rose Bowl. So shout out to Darian. He's probably not listening to this, but his older brother AJ is like one of my best friends still. Good dudes, but yeah, we're off the rails at this point. We only got like 5 minutes left, and we went an hour and a half talking a lot of growth talk and showed a bunch of gardens. So I don't feel as bad about it this week. But it's related to cannabis because a long time ago we had an episode where I said, "Is cannabis a PED, performance enhancing drug?" And somebody, I think the reason that I found out about the Israeli study about the concussions was because something was sent to me about cannabis being used like as a performance enhancing drug or like a banned substance in certain Olympic competition or like being more accepted in the NFL now and then like coming off of the banned list and being used in recovery. And like a lot of these players now taking edibles and using CBD, CBN to sleep for mental health purposes. Ricky
UFC
Williams,
fighters.
run, Ricky, run. talked about his anxiety with all these interviews and stuff. Like cannabis helped him. He doesn't even use it anymore, but it was a big advocate. UFC fighters, Sal, go ahead.
Yeah, UFC fighters. That one dude was doing V pits at the press conference right after the fight
Well,
of
the Diaz brothers
CBD.
like
Yeah.
lost a lot of money and got like banned, and it
Oh, I
sucks. They're
see. I
from
didn't know
California.
that.
I
Yeah.
love
Yeah,
that shit though.
I
I
love the
Shout
didn't
Diaz
realize
bros, man.
that. Yep.
You know, it's really big. I don't want to, I don't know if I should say tradition, but it's common among jiu-jitsu. It's very common. There's a group, the Ganja Grapplers here in Michigan, that is dedicated, dedicated. Like, you know, they encourage it, and so super, super cool to merge the two because you know that it's going to be, you know, protective, protective. So you get the best parts of it. You get the sport, you get the camaraderie, and you get the physical exertion, you get all the good stuff, and then you protect yourself from the bad stuff, some of it at least.
Eddie Bravo, who started 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, beat I think it was Hoyler Gracie at the Abu Dhabi Championships in Jiu-Jitsu, and he's a
Whoa.
huge stoner, man, and he's one of the biggest Jiu-Jitsu guys on the planet now. He's got 10th Planet from like Australia to all over the US. I've trained at his gyms. I know the rubber guard. I got like his DVD system. Love Eddie Bravo, man. He's a
He's
wild individual.
awesome.
He's
I think
crazy.
some of his conspiracies, I think he actually just fucks around and like when he was a kid, he used to tell people he was Eskimo and like Asian. And he's not either of them, but people
I
would believe it
know.
and they just go, oh. So he goes, it's just crazy what people will believe. So I think like sometimes he actually believes the conspiracies when he gets like real hype. But like sometimes I think he just puts crazy shit out there just to like see what other people will go along with.
It's cool to get people thinking outside the box, though, and I love people like that. You know what I
And I
mean?
also think he advocates not trusting the government, which, generally I think is accurate a lot of the time. Like question what they say and do and be weary that they've done a lot of bad shit in the past. And generally they're just not the best when you allocate lots of funds to them. So, be skeptical, be wary, and question a lot of things. Not, I say question everything. Like me and Noah were talking, like, even though I have in my head at least debunked some of these theories that I think are fun to dive down rabbit holes and we'll share stuff back and forth. I still like to question it because like you never know. It's a fun thought experiment, I think, and it helps us grow mentally. And if you always just accept something for what it is, sometimes things change, right? Like science improves and it adapts with time. New things are discovered. So if you just are set on one set of principles, like you buy an encyclopedia set from 2000, well, it's different than 2024 because there's different countries now, literally different countries, like countries that used to exist don't exist anymore, and brand new ones are around. And like so much has happened in the last 25 years. It's just, you can't just have something in your mind and have it exist for the rest of your life and never question it. So I appreciate Noah and anybody else who questions me and shares things that are outside the box and outside the norm. You might think that, all your other friends might think you're crazy, but don't be afraid. You can share it with Jack. Sometimes I'll just laugh and sometimes I'll, maybe take it seriously and consider it. But like, you never know, man. It's fun to consider this stuff. But that
Just
said,
be
we
open-minded. Just be
Crazy,
open-minded.
I
crazy is
agree.
the new sane. Sorry, Noah.
There, I see a lot of people say like conspiracy truths or something now because so many. I need new conspiracies because all the old ones came true or something. That was another good funny quote. So, with that said, I want to pass it first to our special guest tonight who's still with us. We lost Okie Grower, so shout out to Okie Grower. But seedperson1, cheers.
Thanks for having me, guys. And it's been really fun hanging out. I appreciate all of you. And it's just, yeah, a staple of my week to see you every Sunday. So thank you for being here. And shout out to everybody in chat. I'm seedperson1 on Instagram. And I will see you all next week.
Great dude. We need more people like him. Seed people are my people. Keep popping seeds, keep making seeds, keep on giving them out to the community when you can, if possible. That's I think the way that we win. Keep on growing, as Spartan Grown always says. So I'm gonna pass it next to Spartan Grown.
Thank you, Jack. I want to shout out everyone in chat, of course, and everyone on the panel, and the special guest that came on to show the grow, Seed Person One. It's always cool to hang out with you and see what you got cooking in the grow. And Okie Grower, it's cool to see the GML light hanging up there, man. I love that. But I also want to shout out Winewood Organics. I went out there and grabbed some concentrate. Oh shoot, do I have it? Oh, I got the box. I don't have the concentrate right here. I got the box and it's Hollywood Trop. They did oh, it's not gonna show up on my screen.
It's kind of fading in and out. There's like a cookie and then
Yeah, but they did
sunglasses.
yeah, they did collab with Dank Mitten Farms. So I was trying that, but I asked them because they grew the Project V out there, and they've taken down the first harvest, and they've got some flower, but I was asking for concentrate, and they've got some in the freezer. So that, not to concentrate, but some of the flower in the freezer, but they're gonna make concentrate on it. So I will be back. So if you're out there at Winewood Organics, Spartan will be back for some concentrate. Let me know when it's ready. It's exciting to go into a place, man. It's exciting to go into a place and see a strain that you had a part of making, right? And seeing it on a menu, see it with, pricing, see test results. It had the THCV in there like I expected, which is awesome. Just really cool and humbling to walk in and see that stuff. So thanks, Eric out there and everyone out there that works there. It looks great. Did me proud. Thank you.
Love to see it.
Much love and keep growing, everybody.
You got me more encouraged than ever. In the next like 10 minutes, I'm literally popping those seeds because yeah, I'm stoked, man. I love the THCV. I love Subcool. Rest in peace. In my opinion, the best breeder in modern times. He put out more good shit than anybody else that has come around in recent times, and just killer shit. And that's why I'm really stoked to pop it. Thank you so much, Spartan, for joining us. And just like you mentioned, seeing your own stuff in a shop is amazing. I think it was Dan from Gnome Automatics. He saw like Anvil for the first time at a shop, and it's just like, it's cool to have those moments. I think Velvet Punch is going to get there eventually. It almost had its moment, but not quite yet. But it's just fun to get it out there and just
Well,
have
for
other
me,
people growing it.
it was like, I don't know. It was one of those moments because it was like when I got those seeds, it was like that story that it was in a grocery store that sat there vacant for so long. And then I happened to drive by when they had it open and just were selling shit cash out the door just to get rid of it, the new owners. And I happened to get these seeds. And the whole first thing in my mind when I got those Vortex seeds, which was my favorite TGA strain, was I'm going to smash these together. I'm going to have males and females, and I'm going to have more of these so I can spread them around the world so everyone can try it. And here it's now it's in the stores, right? So I mean that's the goal,
Preservation
right?
success.
Exactly. It's like, yeah, okay, I did a thing.
Mission accomplished, man. You made the cannabis world a better place. That's what it's all about. You've already like made your mark. I know you've done it a bunch of different ways, from speaking publicly for politics, for making cannabis more available, but like by breeding it and putting it out there and sharing those seeds with me and others, you've literally made the world a better place. So hats off to you, Spartan. That's amazing.
Thanks, Jack. I appreciate that.
And next up, we got Noah the Grower.
Yeah, I had a great time. Got to learn that Jack knows about Eddie Bravo, who I've listened to quite a bit. That was pretty cool. But I show some of the stuff in my garden. Yeah, I'm Noah the Grow on Instagram. You can find me there, and I'll see everybody next week.
Thanks as always for joining, Noah. And yeah, I've actually got his autographed DVDs sitting here in my house. Big fan of Eddie. I'll get to train with him eventually. I've gone to his gym a bunch of times here, 10th Planet, Oceanside. They really fucking talented people there. And they do high rollers, BJJ, not through 10th Planet, but just generally where, like Spartan mentioned earlier, jiu-jitsu guys like smoking weed. So they'll smoke and then roll and they'll like fight against each other. And I think Eddie, because he smokes, he's so creative. He came up with like all these different techniques, and he beat like one of the best families, the Gracie family, who like learned it from Japan, took it to Brazil, mastered it. Yeah, the old Gracie like beat one of the, he's just one of the best masters ever. Same birthday as myself, but
Oh, absolutely.
coincidentally.
He trains UFC fighters. I know all about everything you just said, but it is very cool, man.
He's an awesome dude. All great community. Anybody who's in that space, they're all really level-headed. Shout out to like Marcus Green Thumb. He does jiu-jitsu as well, and lots of others out there. Tons of great people in the cannabis and jiu-jitsu community. But last and certainly not least of our panelists with us this evening is the American one.
Shout out to Jack, the host. You always do a good job. Thank you. Shout out to the panel, Okie Growers, seedperson1, and everyone in chat. Shout out to Smart Poker and Crispy. I love hanging out there and shooting the shit and talking cannabis there too. And shout out to everyone in chat, man. I'm the American one on the YouTube and the American one _with_18s on the IG. And it's always good to be here. Have a great week, everyone. And we'll see you during the week. If not, back here on Sunday.
Great having you as always, Tao. And I'm at Jack Greenstock on Instagram. Jack_Greenstock is my backup account there, as well as my name on X, formerly known as Twitter. You can email me at jackgreenstock47@gmail.com. And my website is 50strains.com, like 50 strains of green or 50 strains of purple, which is coming out pretty soon. I'm going to get the pre-order up as soon as I can. Thank you all so much for the support. Peace and love. And pop seeds like myself, I'm about to go pop them right now. Vortex, I see them in there right now. I'm gonna pull them out. I'm gonna wet them, and they're gonna get thrown into a bag, and they're gonna get hung up, and then they're gonna be in solo cups. So do it. Pop those seeds. Don't wait. You've got them. You've got so many, especially if you're one of those guys like me who's got a big collection. Pop them. Quit waiting for it. Just do it. Pop them.